The Plaquemine Parish Council June the 11th, 2020 council meeting is now called to order. We'll have roll call. Let the record reflect that all council members are present and the time is 6:34. We'll move to item 3.
Proclamations. 3A, a proclamation declaring June 11, 2020 as Ernest Durham Wooten Day in the parish of Plaquemines.
So offered. Do we have a unanimous second? We have a unanimous second.
A proclamation declaring Thursday, June 11, 2020 as Ernest Durham Wooten Day in the parish of Plaquemines. Whereas Ernest Durham Wooten was a resident of Plaquemines Parish and served this great state as a member of the Louisiana legislature. And whereas Mr. Wooten served not only the state of Louisiana, but he also served in the U.S. Army from 1964 to 1966. And whereas in 1984 he served as sheriff of Plaquemines Parish for 2 terms. During his tenure as sheriff, he founded the Plaquemines Parish Sheriff's Office Shooting Range and Junior Deputy Grounds in Myrtle Grove. And whereas Mr. Wooten served Plaquemines Parish in the Louisiana legislature for 12 years and was elected to the House of Representatives in 1999, where he served for 3 terms. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Plaquemines Parish Council, represented by its duly authorized chairman, Carlton M. LaFrance, and by concurrence of the Plaquemines Parish President, Kirk M. Lapine, representing the Plaquemines Parish government, that it hereby declares Thursday, June 11, 2020 as Ernest Durham Wooten Day in the parish of Plaquemines.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the table? Mr. Konovich?
I'd just like to thank his family for loaning him to us for so long. He was a very good friend to me and my family, and we'll miss him.
Staff?
Mr. Chair, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, Mr. Kognovich, thank you for bringing this proclamation up for a great man. Your family knows how I feel about this man. I'm not going to say a lot, going to get emotional, but I just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Kognovich, because this is an important day for Plaquemines Parish, and duly honored a great individual. I ask that when we do take the picture, that there's the family come up, but also the sheriff come up, because the sheriff has been a big inspiration with Sheriff Wooten, too. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Roussel?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to offer my condolences to the family members here today. And having met Mr. Ernest many, many years ago and been involved in the political scene for many, many years, sometimes on the same side, sometimes not, we were always cordial and professional to each other. And no matter how you took Mr. Ernest, you know, you knew he was sometimes serious and sometimes you didn't know if he was serious, because he always had a sense of humor about him that was beyond my ability to be that funny when he did these things. And having served in the House prior to him coming into the House, whenever I'd return to the House and he would be there on the floor, he was known through the halls of the Capitol, and they called him the sheriff. And when I would go and talk to some of the members that I served with, and they would always tell me, "You got a sheriff there, boy." And it was kind of interesting to see how he evolved over the lifetime. I remember him sitting at the Barrier Country Club when he was not sober, and then when he got sober, he was wonderful. But he was just a wonderful person to talk to over the years that I've known him. So again, I offer my condolences to all of you, and look forward to us adopting the proclamation.
Mr. Black?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I remember when I decided to run for this council seat, I got a phone call from from Sheriff Wooten, and we went to lunch, and the first question he asked me is if I was crazy. And, he didn't mean that, because he quickly took it back, but his intent to have that lunch with me was to have a conversation and make sure I was doing it for the right reasons. And I was sincere in why I wanted to run for office, because he took public service that serious. As Benny just said, he joked around a lot, as we all know, and we love him for that, but he absolutely loved public service and wanted people to be in it for the right reasons. And, when that lunch ended, he wished me the best of luck, and congratulated me for wanting to come out and actually run for public service, and I always was able to reach out to him for advice and bounce things off of him, so he's going to be sorely missed by me and my family, I know that for sure. So, thank you.
Mrs. Newberry?
Yes, I also want to wish his family, I also want to give him my condolences. I didn't really know Mr. Wooten on a personal level, but I knew him slightly. I had the opportunity to grow up with his children. He's raised such a wonderful family, and I just want to thank his family for allowing him to serve the people of Plaquemines and the people of Louisiana also. Thank you.
Dr. Gouy?
My condolences to you guys. Ernest and I go back a long ways, and my mom and Ernest were good friends. They had pet names for each other that I'll just leave in private. And also, Mr. Chester was quite a friend of our families, the Fisher family, the Gouy family. So I just want you guys to know things are going to get better. He'll always be around in your heart. And I wish I could have told him that, because I did speak to him about a week before he passed. So y'all just take care.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, on behalf of my family, I'd like to offer condolences to the Wooten family. And I think we go back a pretty good ways. My Uncle Johnny and Clyde. And I was a little young person at the time, about 37, just walking around there and doing all kinds of stuff. So I gave him the name. I said, "Oh, here come Wyatt." So everybody better be quiet and follow the law, because Wyatt going to take care of you, like you, bring you to the back. Because he's quick on the draw, and he can't be beat. And he don't take no mess from nobody. But he was a very compassionate man, and one that was willing to listen to you. And he always had the ear of the people and the pulse of the people of Plaquemines. And not too many, I can say that about him, Plaquemines, but I can say it about him. He was a very nice person and very concerned about the people of Plaquemines. Doesn't matter what color we are, but people. And he went beyond to make sure everything was equal throughout his department, his office, and he took care of people that I know of, that I experienced. So I want to really thank him for being a part of the East Bank tradition of being good people. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Albro?
Yes, I'd like to ditto what my fellow members said and also offer condolences to the family. Growing up, watching him throughout the years, he's one of the few members that helped inspire me to run for political office. Thank you.
I just want to ditto what all my colleagues had said. Him and a guy that I used to work for, a gentleman I used to work for by the name of Chris Hansen, Seafood in Port Sulphur, they was close like brothers, so I used to see him quite often. But when I would see him, before he would even get close, he always laughing, because you knew he was going to say something stupid, But condolences goes out to the family, and I would like to wish for the family to come up so we could take a picture, and also Sheriff Tullidge. We'll call for the vote. Any more any comments from the audience?
Yeah, I knew Sheriff Wooten from a different side. We always used to fight with each other, because when he first, I was supported Jeff Hingle when he first ran for office, and he used to tell me I was making a serious mistake. And a lot of times I used to say some stuff that make a lot of people angry. He was one of those people. But what I loved about Mr. Wooten, whenever you meet, man, he's a very tall man,
and I didn't weigh half of the amount of pounds that I weigh now, but he would stand over me, this tall figure, and just be in my face, and I'll be back in his face. But we had a great relationship, and if he saw me saying something new, he would go out of the way. I didn't agree with him. I tell you, he was always out of the way to tell me why we had our disagreement at, but our disagreement didn't make us adversary all over the years, and even though we supported people on different sides of the political arena, but I had a great relationship with him because it truly brought meaning to we have a right to disagree with each other. So I want to give my condolences to the Wooten family. I really appreciate Mr. Wooten.
Thank you, Reverend. She's okay. Please come up.
My name is Ray Capello-Uze. I am a longtime friend of Mr. Ernest. My mother was his secretary as sheriff. I worked for Mr. Ernest for 12 years as his legislative assistant, and I want to thank you all, and Mark, thank you very much for bringing this proclamation. I am part of the family. I am treated as part of the family, and I want to thank his family for allowing me to be part of that family. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Machines are open. And the vote is 9-0. They was just better for we to stay back here.
Want to?
All right, y'all feeling on the side. Come on, squeeze in. Gotta see that smile.
That's a big family, so he didn't stay back.
All right, y'all, we're gonna do 2 pictures, okay? So sit tight. First one in 3, 2, 1. All right, let me get one without the flash. Y'all sit tight. All right, again in 3, 2, 1. Thanks.
We'll move to item 3B.
A proclamation declaring 2020 as a year to embrace the Gulf and the Gulf of Mexico's importance to the nation in the parish of Plaquemines.
Well, motion by Mr. Blank. Seconded by Mr. Roussel. Mr. Blank.
As read, this proclamation stands to support QIPRA, which is a funding mechanism to restore coastal areas around the parish, which help improve habitat and knock down storm surge. It's there's a QIPRA project that John Helmers could speak more to that's going to be happening in the Grand Bayou Village, Lake Hermitage area coming up soon. And this is just in support of that program. They do great things here.
Are there any questions from the table? Mr. Helmer, you'd like to add anything?
You don't have to. Thank you.
Let's go. Could you read the proclamation, please?
A proclamation declaring 2020 as the year to embrace the Gulf and the Gulf of Mexico's importance to the nation and the parish of Plaquemines. Whereas it is with pride that we recognize 2020 as the year to embrace the Gulf and acknowledge the Gulf of Mexico's importance to the nation. And whereas the Gulf of Mexico is an ocean basin bounded on the north, northeast, and northwest by the Gulf Coast of the United States, on the south and southwest by Mexico, and on the southeast by Cuba, and the Gulf of Mexico is bordered by 5 Gulf Coast states, Alabama, Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas. And the Gulf region contributes to the nation's economy, security, energy, environment, heritage, beauty, diversity, and resilience. And whereas the Gulf of Mexico's watershed covers more than half of the continental United States and the Mississippi River drains more than 1/3 of the nation, and it is characterized with diverse flora and fauna, provides food, shelter, and habitat to marine and estuarine organisms, shorebirds, waterfowl, and wildlife, and the Gulf Coast supports our nation's seafood industry through commercial fishing, but also provides recreational adventures such as sailing, kayaking, canoeing, paddleboarding, and fishing. And whereas the Gulf of Mexico is more than just a pretty picture, it provides thousands of miles of beautiful, affordable shoreline living, and the Gulf Coast region is also one of the most culturally diverse regions in the nation, with millions of residents tracing their heritage to Europe, Africa, Asia, and Latin America. And the Gulf Coast embraces a variety of traditions and evokes a strong sense of place. And whereas the Gulf region plays a vital role in our nation's defense and aerospace exploration, moreover, it is crucial to oil, gas, and energy production, as well as import and export trade. And whereas Gulf Coast tourism generates hundreds of billions of dollars each year, and if the Gulf area were a country, our economy would rank among top 10 worldwide, and by increasing awareness of the Gulf of Mexico's many treasures and limitless value, we ensure a sustainable future. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Plaquemines Parish Council, represented by its duly authorized chairman, Carlton M. LaFrance, and by concurrence of the parish president, Kirk M. Lapine, representing the Plaquemines Parish government, that it hereby declares 2020 as the year to embrace the Gulf and Gulf of Mexico's importance to the nation in the parish of Plaquemines.
Thank you, Ms. Barber. There's any comments from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0.
Thank you, Mr. LaFrance.
Yes.
Thank you. I said thank you, Mr. LaFrance.
Okay, thank you. We'll move for suspension of the rules. I send everyone a resolutions today, and I would like to move to suspend the rules.
The first item on the agenda, or the first item up for suspension, a resolution to authorize the parish president, Kirk Lapine, to request payment from the state of Louisiana for CARES funds and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
So offered. Seconded by Mr. Konovich. Mr. Roussel.
This coincides with another item that I have on the agenda for discussion about the application for CARES. Do you have any estimates yet, and have you submitted anything yet on this for reimbursement to get an idea of where we stand?
Yes, there's some different ones we have submitted, and this is different. This is a reimbursement, and I think Ms. Taylor can explain it, but.
Yes, Mr. Roussel, we're in the process of gathering the paperwork for submittal by June 15th, and we're estimating right now right at a little over $600,000, $665,982.
And that's actual reimbursement of expenditure that we've made?
Yes.
And that's for COVID or for what?
It's COVID, the first round of funding, which is the majority for sure, that's what I was given, will be about $665,982, and it covers all paid leave for COVID, due to COVID, including civil pay as well as equipment usage and expenses.
And so that's money we paid that will, 600,000 we'll be able to put back in the budget?
Yes.
Okay. And is there any other categories that we're looking at?
Not at this present time.
Okay. And do you know how much is allocated to us in the CARES Act for Plaquemines? Total, if we were able to max out?
Not that yet. They still working on that formula.
Okay. They had $1.2 million floating around some time ago.
Yes.
We've heard many numbers. We've heard 3 million. We've heard, it's based on 30% of COVID reimbursement and 70% of how many COVID positive cases you had. So the formula is still being kicked around.
And then this 600,000 is for reimbursement of payroll.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. That'll take care of the other item on the agenda that we have.
Any more comments? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0.
That's a suspension, huh?
That's what's, okay, that's for suspension. Now we'll move for the approval of the measure.
A resolution to authorize the parish president, Kirk Lapine, to request payment from the state of Louisiana for CARES funds and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
We have a motion? Offered by Mr. Russo, seconded by Mr. Corey. Any comments from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0.
The second suspension is a resolution condemning the murder of George Floyd, the practice of systemic institutional racism and police violence against Black Americans and all people. The Plaquemines Parish Council commends all law enforcement officers who are partners with and not abusers of the communities they serve, and expressing their solidarity with those who have peacefully protested the murder of Mr. Floyd, and who are also advocating the end to social and economic injustices caused by racism throughout this nation and the world, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
So offered. Seconded by Mr. Konovich. This is for suspension. And the measure passes 9-0.
A resolution condemning the murder of George Floyd, the practice of systemic institutional racism, and police violence against Black Americans and all people. The Plaquemines Parish Council commends all law enforcement officers who are partners with and not abusers of the communities they serve, and expressing their solidarity with those who have peacefully protested the murder of Mr. Floyd, and who are also advocating the end to social and economic injustices caused by racism throughout this nation and the world, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
So offered. Seconded by Mr. Blank. Any comments from the table? No. Oh, I got a comment. You know, everyone saw this on TV. It was truly a hurtful thing what I saw. To see a man beg for his life with a police officer, a man who's supposed to represent the law and order, one who's supposed to serve and protect, a peacemaker, kneeling on a man's neck for over 8 minutes. It was a video that affected this nation, and now people around the world are vowing to stand with Black and brown people and pledging to support ending systemic racism in America. This caused a global outrage. There are protesting from Washington, New York, from Florida to Texas, from the United Kingdom, South America, Australia, Germany, Mexico, London,
on behalf of our chairman, who has become quite emotional over this issue, I'll finalize his statement as prepared by our chairman. From the United Kingdom, South Korea, Australia, Germany, Mexico, London, Rome, Madrid, they even had Black Lives Matter lighted up on the House Parliament. We ask our children, if you see or hear something, to say something, but when good cops see bad cops do something bad, they don't say or do anything. It's like a code of silence. We know that this is not a sprint, but a journey, and I'm encouraged by the different races of people that I see that are out there peacefully protesting. Tens of thousands of people. Today we stood up and pledged allegiance to the flag that stands for freedom, liberty, and justice for all. Each individual here, or the ones that can hear my voice, need to do some soul searching. What can I do to make this situation better? It's a call for a new beginning. It's not a black issue, but it's a human issue that stands for mutual respect, equality, and acceptance. Our hope is for justice, equality, and peace for all.
Thank you. You know, Mr. Floyd, he was 45 years old. I have 3 sons, 143, 142, and 134. I have 7 grandsons. A week ago, a 5-year-old grandson was watching TV, and he saw what had happened to Mr. Floyd. So my daughter he asked his mama, why did they do that? What's going on? And here she is, have to try to explain to a 5-year-old child what is happening. You know, this is truly hurtful for me, as you can see. So with that, is there any comments from the table? From the audience?
Good evening.
Please state your name and your address.
David Franklin, Naomi, Louisiana. I really like how you guys opened the meeting with a prayer acknowledging God. Another thing I heard Mr. Roussel said about some other things being ignored here in the parish. While we're in the midst of this pandemic, the world has been held to a certain level to make sure that we stop the spread of this COVID. You know, we're wearing these face masks. It's very challenging, but we have learned to adjust. But there's one thing that is hard to adjust to relating to the parish of Plaquemines. We are facing issues here in Plaquemines Parish that is not spreading unilaterally, but through generations, and it's called racism. Being a product of this parish, I'm very familiar with the inner workings of the unfair treatment and the injustice. The problem is still existing. Like you said earlier, this is not a black and a white issue. This is a matter of racism. Plaquemines Parish government, relating to, a fair distribution of diversity, individuals in this parish have contacted our group and communicated those issues, that we have people and employees of this parish that's scared to speak up because they sit under individuals that may be racist, and they fear losing their jobs. Those individuals are unaware of an organization called the EEOC. And I know that my people perish from their lack of knowledge, but we're here to make sure that they're educated in that area. In the legal, judicial system, and in the sheriff office, there's some situations that has been brought to our attention. A young lady was killed on a highway, and a cop back in '97 made a comment that that's just one less black person we need to worry about. Good thing I had a conversation with the sheriff just now, sitting right there on the front row. I don't know Turlich, but I met him here today. And he cleared up one situation relating an old employee that used to report to him. However, I was made aware of another situation where the sheriff gave a Halloween party and he depicted himself as a black person, painting his face black. In the school board, there's racism as well. I can recall back in '98 when a teacher in my 12th grade year of high school, I'm thankful for my Aunt Marva Trufant. Many of you know her because she's a powerful black woman here in this parish. If it was not for her, Renata, Miss Renata, I don't recall her first name at this time, but she forged my grades to keep me back in high school. And if it was not for my Aunt Marva standing up for me and her admitting that she forged the grades, I would have been another black statistics on the streets of Plaquemines Parish, dropping out of high school, or not pursuing a career in something else. But let's bring this current, not only in '98, but there's a video that's floating around right now that many of you may not even know about. A little white girl calling a little black girl and a little black boy nigger. I don't understand why we are still in this position. We are growing as a people, but racism is still existing in Plaquemines Parish. So how could you pray before a meeting and say that you don't want things to be ignored when clearly racism is still here in this parish? I apologize to, or I'm sorry that the Floyd family had to sacrifice George for justice, but the time is now and enough is enough. So we demand change in the parish. We demand change. We demand attention to some of these issues. And I spoke to Jerry Turlich about some of those issues. But we need a platform for the people to report or to express their concerns, and someone needs to work with them to make sure that it's corrected. We are prepared to bring attention to the racism here in Plaquemines Parish on a global level. And I end with this. Because you started with a prayer, that means that you're Christians. And if you follow this man named Jesus, that means that there should not be hate in your heart. Because just like the walls of Jericho, and if you're a Christian, you can relate to this story very well. The walls of Jericho came down. And we are not going to stop until the walls of injustice come down, until the walls of inequality come down, and the walls of racism come down in this parish. I am a product of this parish, right? And I know about Leander Perez, and maybe some family members of him here right now. At the end of the day, it's a new day. And it's time for us to treat each other like humans instead of looking at the color of our skin. So I propose today, everything's not going to get fixed today, but every single area and division that I named of Plaquemines Parish need to be investigated, including the Plaquemines Parish School Board, including the legal and judicial system along with the Sheriff's Department, and also the government of Plaquemines Parish. We stand, and if there's no attention and it gets ignored, then we'll take further measures. Nothing as it relates to the rioting that you've been seeing on television. We just want justice. We want your ears. We want you to hear what we have to say, hear what the people of Plaquemines Parish has to say relating to the racism that's clearly going on. There was a post. I'm so glad that social media is just so fast. The sheriff made a post about the protest, the peaceful protest that's taking place. There were comments under the post saying, why are they? Who is the they? Why are they doing this? Someone asked for permission if the protest is going on, can we drive our car into the crowd? That's clearly hate. And it is a new day here in Plaquemines Parish. If your attention is not brought to it, we'll get global people involved, There are certain organizations that I'm sure you guys are aware of. And if we have to bring them to get involved in this situation, we will. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Frank. Is there any more comments?
Burgard Turner, 161 East Bellevue, Port Sulphur, Louisiana. Thank you for this. It's very good. And when I look at it, it talks about solidarity. I'm here for two reasons. One is to invite you to a peaceful protest that's going to be taking place tomorrow. I'll give you the times and that schedule. And two, just to inform you of it, what's going to be taking place. But I want you to know that you're personally invited. Think about what you've stated here. You said that we're in solidarity. We stand together. Talk is cheap. There's a protest, there's a peaceful protest taking place tomorrow. And the question is, will you be standing there tomorrow for the peaceful protest? We can say a lot of things. We can say that what took place was wrong, oh, how sad, and just move on. And the sad thing about it is some people aren't even willing to say that, and some people have a problem even saying Black Lives Matter. It's almost as though they're afraid to say it. You say Black Lives Matter, they come back with all lives matter. And the whole purpose of that is to minimize the message. We know that all lives matter. Don't tell me the obvious. What's not so obvious is that in many situations, Black lives really doesn't matter. We can say it, but in treatment, you know, the proof is in the pudding, in what you see. It's obvious that we have a problem as a nation, right? George Floyd was the catalyst for a lot of people. But George Floyd was not the catalyst for those who were being victimized, but it's those who said that it's not that bad. And then, you know what I hear? We don't have that problem. Yes, we do. Listen, the man was saying, I can't breathe. We've got a lot of people saying, I can't breathe. You ask me what the problem, you see it. Many of you know the discrimination. We try to say that there's no discrimination, but you know it, I know it. We all see it. One lady, one parish employee, I don't want to get the names mixed up, but a parish employee, the day that they were burying George Floyd, and I can't quote it, somebody in the audience can, I think they have it, but the person said, I'm tired, I'm sick and tired of hearing of this, you know, ought to be over with. The man wasn't even put in the ground yet. And we're tired of it. You want me to tell you what that says to me? That's like the guy with the knee on the neck, so casual and insensitive that his hands are in his pockets. His hand is in his pocket. And what are you all worried about? It's like there's nothing wrong. Hands are in the pocket, and you got some people saying, I'm enough of this. Already. Enough of that. That in itself is a problem. Listen, folks, we've got to change how we see things. You're part of that change. But I'm telling you, many of you struggle with saying Black Lives Matter without adding to it all lives matter or blue lives matter, giving us the obvious. But the evidence is that there's a disparity. And that's what we're trying to highlight. And that's what George Floyd's death did. It brought it to the forefront of this nation, to the point where nearly everybody was saying it's a problem. But now we're ready to move on. And yet we give a resolution saying that we stand in solidarity, but will you march in protest? The protest is to acknowledge that there's discrimination in the country. The protest is to acknowledge that a heinous act has taken place, and we're bold enough to march and say that it is wrong. Now, many people aren't willing to do that because of how their neighbors might look at them, of who you're marching and walking with. That in itself is a problem. The march is going on tomorrow. If it's predominantly black in a predominantly white parish, that is a problem. I shouldn't have to solicit the white community to join a peaceful protest simply to acknowledge that a heinous crime has taken place. If we're talking solidarity, then let's go out as one. Let's say it. If you're not willing to come to the protest, then your voice here is meaningless. Because then what you're saying is, while the knee is on the neck, you're saying it's not that bad. My mom used to say, what you do speaks so loudly that I can't hear what you're saying. This is a time, listen folks, this is a time where we come together as one in unity, where we protest and say this is wrong in unity. This is not about division or to divide. And the only way we're going to look divided as a parish if you don't come out. So at the end of the day, because I'm telling you, this is a peaceful protest. Let me tell you something. The sheriff has been exceptional. I've been negotiating with him behind the scenes, and I can tell you, we haven't compromised on anything. Whatever the protesters wanted, that's what I brought, and a lot of it he didn't agree with. But he was super sensitive to the situation of what's going on. And he compromised and compromised. You know, even today he said, listen, you guys aren't giving up anything. I'm giving up everything. And I said, this is what we're doing. So in our case, we've got to, I can't speak for everybody on this force, and I can only speak for the negotiations that's been taking place behind the scenes, because there are a lot of people, both black and white, who have called him and doesn't want to see this happen. Now, don't you think that's sad? Yes. We're talking about a peaceful protest. That's a problem. Yes. If you don't show up, man, listen, you can keep your paper. No, I like it because I'm going to keep it. It needs to be the front page of the Gazette. But all you're giving is lip service. There's no reason for you not to be there if you mean what you say right here. If you truly don't want us to be divided. This parish is majority white. The protest should not be majority black. You should be able to stand up and say an injustice has taken place. You don't have to agree with every position, but you ought to be agreeing that we have a problem. And if you can't do that, I think of Heather Heyer, the lady who was at a protest, and some guy ran his vehicle into the crowd and killed her. And that's our concern. You know, you got people shoo-shooing about the protesters because of what they see elsewhere. We're not like that. Dr. Martin Luther King wasn't like that. It wasn't the protesters who was the problem, it was the community. Heather Heyer said her last Facebook post, the lady who was killed, said, if you're not outraged, then you're not paying attention. And by George's time, we start paying attention. The protest is taking place at the Annex building. We're meeting at 3 o'clock. I'll give you what's going to happen. We're meeting at 3 o'clock at the Annex building. Because of logistics, from there, people are going to be directed to the foot of the bridge on the southbound side. Going to park under the bridge, the elderly. Many of the elderly can't make that bridge. We're going over the bridge and through the tunnel. The same tunnel that Leander Perez said, I dare you to come through. This is history. You can be a part of history. You can stand for something. Or you can sit on the sideline and watch it happen. Or you can put your hands in your pocket and act like nothing is happening. But this is history. So we're going to meet at 3, and then I'm told that the parish, I'm told that President Lapine, and I want to thank him for it, I'm told that they're going to provide community action vans. That's for our elderly. This is history for them, and we will not disrespect them. We will not allow this protest to be a violent protest. Not happening. I'm talking to people, make sure you watch and see who's around you. But if you're there, we're all watching. If you don't show up, you're presenting it an us against them, whoever the us is and whoever the them is. Again, if Plaquemines Parish is saying this is wrong, the majority of this parish is white, then show up. Annex building, base of the bridge. By 4 o'clock, we start marching our elderly. People can park their vehicles here at the annex building. When they come, we're going to direct them to the bridge. Elderly will get on the bus. We'll take them to the base of the bridge. Then we'll begin to march. Our elderly residents will lead us out. We're going to go over the bridge to the top of the bridge, come down on the other side, and we're going to form at the tunnel. We're going to have a prayer at the tunnel. Our elderly, they will go through the tunnel first. I don't care what color you are. If you're from Plaquemines Parish, and if you say this is wrong, come. Going to go through the tunnel. They're going to get out. They're going to be at the end. Then the protesters, we're going to go. We, as a parish, if you consider yourself a member of this parish, you ought to be there. We, as a parish, are going to go through that tunnel in protest to the heinous act that has taken place and to racism and discrimination that's taken place all over the country, including here in Plaquemines Parish. We're going to go through there. Our elderly then will be shuttled over to the sheriff's office, and then we're going to march, a peaceful march. It's going to be a loud march. It's going to be vocal, but it's going to be peaceful. And I told the sheriff it's up to us that we're going to police it. Now, for the security of the parish, listen, he's going to do his job. He's going to do his job. And part of his job is protecting us. We pay taxes. He's going to do his job. We're going to make the march, meet at the sheriff's office, and there are going to be speeches, and that's it. We'll go from there. But so that's the plan. 3 o'clock, meet at the annex building. I'm going to say by 3:50, 3:45, 3:50, our elderly are going to pull out, go to the base of the bridge. If you're able to drive to the base of the bridge, that's where we're going to start. Go over the Perez Bridge. We couldn't go through the tunnel. We're going through the tunnel and the bridge. We're making history. It's a statement. You can be a part of that history. Again, if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. Pay attention. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner.
And thank you for all the time you gave me. You didn't have to give it to me. I appreciate it.
Reverend Leander Taylor, 5913 Three Hills Court. I'm not here to take up that much of your time, but the young man adjured me right there when he said about the EEOC. I've been on this battlefield. I just never started. I could have been George Floyd. My son could have been George Floyd. Just to let you know, we have a problem in Plaquemines Parish, but it's now being addressed. Yeah. I used to work for Gulf Earl Company, son. And I stood up and made a statement, and I was laid off. And they blackballed me. Anybody know what blackballed is? I could not find a job in Plaquemines Parish. I had some of the highest certifications that a welder could have, and the oil field was booming, and because I made a statement as a black man. You hear what I'm saying? I could not find a job in Plaquemines Parish. And I remember coming to Bell Chase on Engineer Road, they had a welding company over there, and there was desperate need for a welder, a TIG welder. And I went over there and I took the test, and a white brother told me, he said, they're not gonna give you, I didn't even know I was blackballed. He said, they're not gonna give you no job, Brother Taylor. That's what he called me, Brother Taylor. I said, what you mean, man? I said, they're in desperate need for a welder like me. He said, you don't know you've been blackballed? It was news to me. Blackballed, Plaquemine Parish, 1979. I left there. They didn't give me the job. I left there. Went down Woodland Highway. Guy over there named Curly Dixon had a welding company over there. Stopped in there. He told me, he said, son, he said, you've been blackballed. He said, I'm not supposed to give you a job. He said, but you know what? This is my company. He said, you have the certification, and I believe you can do the job. You hired on. But to make a long story short, why I said I could have been George Floyd. Former Paris President Roosevelt had called us back to work during Katrina. And I came back, I was in Ruston, Louisiana. I came back, I got to the checkpoint over there, had my Paris shirt on. There's a problem in Plaquemine Parish. Had my Paris shirt on with my name said Leander Taylor, not Leander Perez, Leander Taylor. Got that name from him, though. And I wear it well. And I pulled up to the checkpoint, and I give the lady my license. And I say I was called back to work, explained to her, I was called back to work, I need to come into the parish so I can do my job. She told me, now I'm looking at the license plates coming into the parish, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama. My license plate say Louisiana, and I'm from Plaquemine Parish, with a parish shirt on, parish sticker, and I give her my license, and she said, you can't come into the parish. I said, ma'am, I was called back to work. I need to come back into the parish. She said, go up there to that Rouse's and sit there a while. I said to myself, I'll be damned. Called back to work. I'm looking at the white folks passing by like nothing to it. I went up to the Rouse's. I told my little cousin, I said, let's go over to LJ's. I'm going to go over there, see if I can get in. I'm going to go check my mom's house. Get to a checkpoint over there. The National Guard is there. Guy asked me to see my driver's license. Showed him my driver's license. He said, go ahead on and check your mom's house. Make sure you come back this route. So I came back this route. I'm telling you, I'm going to my seat, but I could have been George Floyd. My son was throwing newspaper. I'm saying all this because I'm a black man. I born this away. Didn't have no church to it, I born this away. Now, I believe in equality for everybody, but there's a problem right now that we're facing, not only in this country, but in our parish. My son was throwing newspaper. Teach my children that if they get into a confrontation, try to suppress the situation before it get too bad. My son was throwing newspaper, and he had been doing it for a while. And he told me, he said, Daddy, he said, I believe these policemen is watching me. I said, well, son, Daddy told you how to handle every situation. If they stop you, try your best to respect them and don't tell them nothing out of the way. So they did stop him. He was going on a Navy base. He had been throwing papers for a while. Got a car full of paper, newspapers in the back, car full of newspapers on the front seat, and he's throwing newspaper. And he had noticed that they had been going to the Blue Angel and sitting there for when he passed. So me and him talked about it, and they stopped him. And they asked him what he was doing. He said, I'm throwing newspaper. Stupidest question is to ask a young man why. That's my job. One thing I teach my children, don't let nobody intimidate you. Respect them, but don't let nobody intimidate you or belittle you. So he went on to tell him, it's my job. Why are you throwing newspaper in Plaquemine Parish? He said, a newspaper, this is my route. So it went on one thing to another thing. They finally let him go. I was so mad. You hear what I'm saying? I know what I endured. But for my child, I want to know, any of y'all had ever lost a child? I buried a child. I don't need to bury another child behind ignorant people. I was so mad. Tell y'all how mad I was. I started thinking like Mark Exit. I don't know if some of y'all know Mark Exit, but I started thinking like Mark Exit. But I'm so glad that I was reared up in a Christian home and I could pray about the situation. But I could have been George Floyd. My son could have been George Floyd. Now, I'm going to my seat, but I heard Pastor Turner talk about a march. Don't have nothing with marching for what's right, and I think this is right. But what's the strategic plan after the march? Where we go after the march? I read something in the brother church a long time ago. Pentecostal church, white church. I preached in churches from when I first started in the ministry, and I was at this brother church, and he told me, read that billboard, go back out in the forum and read that billboard. Went out there and I read the billboard. The billboard said, when all done been said and done, there's more be said than done. I watched that play out in here earlier. When all was said and done, there was just more said than done. So after the march, where we go from here? That's my question. Do we sit down? I'm not here to beat up on Sheriff Tulich. Do we sit down with Sheriff Tulich and come to some type of conclusion, a plan for this situation? Because we have a problem with the Sheriff Department. And young man, I remember when we fought for civil service for the parish. There's always room to sit down and try and talk about the situation instead of pointing fingers at everybody. So what I'm telling y'all we need to do right now, we need to come together as a collective body. Sit down with one another. Get the cliques and the ism and all these people that think they're somebody. Get everybody together and sit down and try and work this thing out. Because I'm telling y'all, if we don't, it's going to get bad.
Thank you, Reverend Taylor. Is there any more comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've just been sitting back here, and I've been engaged with a lot of talks. The first time I was notified about possibly doing a protest, I think Abby, who I'm friends with, every now and then I'm running through Port South, I'll call out the blue, hey, how you doing, Abby? And so she said, I knew you was going to call when I posted y'all on Facebook. I said, well, yeah, that's what I monitor it all the time. I'm very aware of, problems. I want to make sure I'm there as soon as the problem arises. So I get tagged a lot on social media. I was listening to Burger Turner. I'm glad you are involved because I think you're a man of integrity, and I appreciate you. And I think if you give me your word, I know you're going to honor it. So I'm glad you're involved. Abby and Tracy's also involved. But I was listening to Mr. Leander, and I'm going to tell you, sometimes y'all just don't even know, like, what I've done. Like, I can tell you, when I first got in there, I promoted Auburn Tinson, first black deputy chief in the history of Plaquemines Parish. I promoted Denise Narcisse, the first black female warden in the history of Plaquemines Parish. I promoted Terrence Williams, lieutenant. I promoted Dudley Rogers, Big Dud and Little Dud. I promoted Sidney Smith, lieutenant in Detective Bureau. I just recently moved Chris Thomas into my traffic division. I mean, I can go on and on of what I've done. So I'm not sitting idle. I think I'm a leader and seeing what's going on. I diminish what they accomplished by saying I promoted them because they're black. I diminish what they accomplished. So I don't even like saying that, right? Because they accomplished, they earned it. I promote them because they earned it. So I think when it's not even right to say, hey, you should promote them because they're black or they're white or they're female. It was well deserved. It's been long overdue. So I did it. And I want y'all to, I remember having this very frank talks with Tracy, because Tracy will hit you, right between the eyes with something, and you got to, go back and forth with her because she's very articulate, very, very intelligent. She's usually on with some information, right? So I'm usually on with information, right? I went down the list. Boom, boom. This is what we've done. 2 weeks ago, I reached out to Carlos Stutes with Lafayette Sheriff's Office. Mark Garber was sworn in when I was sworn in. And I said, look, Chief, I remember y'all doing some training when y'all first took office, and it was sensitivity training about ethnicities and different cultures. And I said, I'd like that. So he had his training guide 2 weeks ago, way before y'all notified me of any protests or anything else. So I think I'm honest. I rode in Zulu with Marlon Gusman twice. I'm down Franklin Avenue, and everybody, Sheriff. And Charbonnet goes, man, Jerry, you know more people than Marlon down the street. I said, well, I got a lot of black friends. I said, and I think they take me for who I am, and I take them for who they are. And I go down by Horse Parkers all the time, and what amazes me is he don't have a lot of money. Every time he goes up there, Sheriff, can I go get you a Coke? I said, man, keep your Cokes, man. I said, look, hey, they're cooking shrimp. Hey, I'm going to fix you and your wife a plate of shrimp to take home. I said, Horse, you don't have to do that, man. And I said, keep that for your family. But what amazes me is some people who have the least give the most. Yes, sir. It's amazing. So I don't want to take offense, because I think, some of the things that y'all saying, it makes you want to be defensive, right? And I don't want that. I want an open dialogue. I can't fix the past. I can't do anything about the 70s, 80s, 90s. I can do something now. You know what I'm saying? And I am a man of my word. You can ask anybody in here. If I say it, I'm going to do it. So I'm a stand-up kind of guy. Have I made mistakes? Yeah. But I guarantee I can look at everybody in here. They made a mistake. So, but we can't fix that. We can only go what we're doing moving forward. I don't come to a lot of council. Hey, look, you guys have a tough job. You have a tough job. I think there's a lot. It's tough to run for public office because every single little thing that you do gets picked apart. Every single little thing. And then you got to worry about your family. Then you're trying to do right just to go lay down and get a good night's sleep. It's tough. Especially right now. I'm not going to sleep until this is over with, until the very last protest, because they are agitators. I told Tracy, and I was very worried because, she is in the NAACP in New Orleans and Jefferson. I said, please don't bring a lot of agitators. I don't know if I have the resources to control that. When they go throw a rock and they think they're being cute by defacing the bridge or the tunnel. None of that. And they assured me that would not happen. She assured me that would not happen. Berger assured me that that wouldn't happen. Because I got to trust y'all too. I mean, y'all got to trust me, I got to trust y'all. I mean, it's a two-way street. So I do think it's going to, look, I'm going to be there. And look, I'm going to be there in uniform. I'm going to walk. I understand George Floyd's life mattered. It's that simple. Don't matter what his criminal record was. It don't matter. The guy was on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. When me and my wife were sitting there watching it, we were totally appalled. Totally appalled. I said, God, I can't believe that. I said, what is he doing? And you know what? I am proud to wear this badge. I've been wearing it for 30 years. 30 years. I'm only 50. But it means something to me. I don't want no stain on this. And I guarantee all my deputies don't want no stain on that. We don't want to be looking. Look at all the things I do in the public. And it's for all kids. It's for all races. It's for all people. You know? So that's all I have to say. Look, I think this is going to be good. I think we can label it any way, which way we want it. You know, because I'm going to tell you, some people are going to light it up on both sides. I just posted it on my Facebook page on the sheriff, and you can have, I told my PIO, please eliminate any insightful comments, because I don't want that. It's not about that. It's about a unity, community walk in protest of what happened. And some of the, you know, we all can get better with inequalities or, you know, injustices, and we will. But I'm already there. I'm leading. I'm not following. So I just wanted to say my piece real quick. Thank y'all for having me, and I'm gonna go sit down in the back again. All right.
Okay, this is Major Tracy Riley, retired resident of Plaquemines Parish. Probably the last time I'll speak today. Hold your applause on that, too. The fact that we're even having this conversation in this venue during this meeting has been a long time coming. It has been a long time coming. I appreciate very much Councilman LaFrance for putting this resolution on the table. Deeply appreciate that. Yes, I am the president, or about to become the president of the Algiers Gretna NAACP branch 6310, but I'm a resident here in Plaquemines Parish. I'm married into this area from Mississippi, and I've been here over 25 years. My children were educated in the public schools here. My husband and I served on the base here until we retired. Our family is here, and we are terrified. I'm coming to you as a mother, as a parent, who, like any other mother, wants for her family to be safe and live a happy life, just like everybody else. But when my children leave the house, run an errand, go to school, go to church, it is a big deal because of the climate of things. I won't say the climate of things today because this has been our life. We can't take a break. We can't undress and be something else. And it's terrifying. And I'm just happy that we can at least now have this conversation. And the cost has been great just for us to have this conversation in this venue. And I thank you for that. There are many residents in the parish who would like to come and participate on tomorrow as well. but because of the nuance in the law with civil service, they're afraid of retaliation. So I want to bring that to the council as consideration. If you should look up and see an employee holding a sign or offering water to someone who's also participating, that you please not retaliate against them. You should not be fearful of your job just because you choose at a very important time in our country's history to stand and participate in how our country governs itself. It's a constitutional right to stand and speak, as long as what you speak is factual. It's a constitutional right to assemble and petition your government for redress. So I just would like all of you, and go on the record, to say that there are employees who are residents of the parish concerned about that. And for the calls that we've fielded around that topic, the group of residents who have put this protest together have committed to those individuals to stand with them too, should that happen. I want to leave with just a couple of solutions. You know, people often say if you come with a problem, at least have 3 or 4 solutions for that problem. This whole racism thing, it's something that is taught, right? It's part of conditioning, and it's not going to be fixed overnight. But I do recommend, since we're talking about, and Sheriff Turlich and I have had this conversation with the rest of the group, that you all put heavy consideration into every employee that falls within your chain of command to receive training on this topic in particular. A lot of us are walking around thinking that it doesn't touch us, it doesn't apply to us. But ladies and gentlemen, from our lens, it affects every walk of life, everything we touch, everything we do. This particular racism impacts most every aspect of our lives. And so in order for us to get better together, I recommend highly that every employee of parish government, sheriff, school board, environmental safety, that everyone receives routine training, especially in the school, because there are major issues in the schools as well. And finally, you know, I know that each department has a complaint process. I ask that you give very serious consideration to investigating those complaints thoroughly, and take the appropriate action, even in the case where one of your employees are found to be in violation of someone else's constitutional rights. Thank you very much, and I'm going to leave you with this thought from Dr. King. And he says that you can't live the best life that you're supposed to live if I'm not living the best life that I can live. And I can't live the best life I'm supposed to live if you're not living the best life that you're supposed to live. And what that means is we're all in this thing together, and what we do affects the next person, just as what they do affects us. We're all in this together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Raleigh.
How y'all doing? I'm Danny Gaines, address 125 Gaines Lane, and I'm standing here and I'm listening to everyone speak, and it's really hurting and saddening that we have to be in this place at a time like this to where we have to come to y'all and be in a room and have a discussion of this. This is blatant. We see it on TV. It's here. It's in our parish, and we just want it to be recognized, and we want it to be going away. Our protest is not about causing a problem. We just want y'all to see there is a problem for y'all to stop it. For example, as the sheriff, y'all have all these new equipments and these battle rams and these new trucks, but I don't see y'all coming to the black community and putting up a basketball goal, or y'all deputies come and play basketball or football. I know you say you do a lot of things, but we don't see a lot of things in the black community. I am George Floyd, because you have an African man here and a black African man here, but when y'all see them in ties. When y'all see me in this, y'all address me different. And I come from work in this, but y'all will address me different. So what I'm saying is there is racism here. And it comes to it comes in different form of fashion. Whether it's the school board, whether it's the kids, whether it's the injustice, is here. And I'm so emotional, I can't really articulate all my words that I want to get out, because I'm trying not to be too emotional. But the only thing I'm saying is, now is the time. And I ask all y'all just to visualize, close your eyes for a minute, because y'all don't have to worry about y'all's son when he leave. I am a father, I'm a son, I'm an uncle, I'm a brother. But when I leave my family, my kids, when your kids leave, they don't have to worry about the police pulling them over, harassing them, put a gun to the head. Your kids, your son don't have to worry about that. And I'm not singling pointing out loud, I'm just saying if y'all have kids. Y'all don't have to worry about these things. I am George Floyd, because when I go out, that's all they see is this. I don't have a suit, I don't have a name in front of me, nothing, just a black man, and they're gonna treat me different. So what I'm saying is, just everyone come together, acknowledges, and let's acknowledge it, and let's stop it. We're not trying to put a damp on plaque on parish, or is this or is that. No, we ask for equal equality. We just want rights like everybody else. That's it. When your son go, he's coming back in one piece. You ain't got that to worry about. My mom, my sister, my kids, daddy don't go. Why? I'm going to the store just like everybody else. It's just, I'm emotional, but there has a problem. We all can solve it. We all are the problem, and to solve the problem, we all have to come together to solve the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gaines.
Reverend Tyrone Edwards, 112 Thomas Lane in downtown Phoenix. Councilman LaFrance, I want to commend you on this historical day, this resolution. I've seen something happen at this council I've never seen happen, and I hope this would happen, where we can actually stand up and people can share the disagreement and not sit down. So many times I've witnessed council when people come up and talk about racism, they shut down in the first 2 minutes. I'm hoping that all council members look at what's happening here today and see that when people are allowed to really express themselves, good things come out of it. It's okay, but sometimes people get nervous. You only got 3 minutes. There's a certain time when people need to truly express themselves. I want to, because so many young people are calling me because they've never been involved in march in their lives, and I told them this would be a great experience for them. But I want to focus my attention on this resolution, and I want to bring it back to what Reverend Taylor said, and that is number 40, 41, 42, and 43. Be it further resolved by the Plaquemine Parish Council that the council hereby commit to pursuing and reform aimed at addressing the disparity, distresses, and abuse that black and brown indigenous at great risk to address racism in this parish. I hope out of all the things that's in this resolution that this part really be pursued, because it's time that we address racism in Plaquemine Parish. But again, thank you, council members, for demonstrating how it's important to let residents express their concern, their frustration, even when you don't agree with them. That's what I was saying earlier about Sheriff Wooten. We was like added, but at the end of the day, we respect each other's opinion, we respect each other's beliefs, and respect each other's value, and we had the right to disagree. And I will close, as Martin Luther King said too, we have a right to protest.
Thank you, Reverend Evans.
Thank you, Councilman, for your resolution. My condolences go to the Floyd family. Listen, I've been at this mic for the last 40 years. Racism exists. Racism, I'm a strong believer and hoping it's going to change. But I got to be real. 40 years, I just haven't seen that change yet. Haven't seen that change. But you know why that change haven't really been seen? Because every day we all go our separate ways, but we all go our separate ways in a different manner. A different manner. You know, we wake up, if we in the black community, our resources are limited, man. And so your resources are limited, everything else is limited in your life. But at the same time, you wake up in a well-to-do area, sky the limits. That is phenomenon in life. That's a life about the American dream. The American dream should be afforded to everybody. Everybody. Doesn't matter what color you are. Don't matter if you're black, brown, green, yellow, white, whatever it is. That dream should be afforded to everybody. And even after the march here, I'm going to participate in it. And I really hope some of you guys do it. Be honest with you, I've never been in a march. Be my first time too. I'm a black person, okay? But you got to wake up in the morning and see what you could do for your fellow human being. Everybody a human being. Doesn't matter what color you are. You are a human being first. First. You know, we always fighting and fussing, but we got to start saying, hey, look, because I'm white, I'm better than you. No. There's no such thing as because you're one color, you are better than someone else. Look at everybody for what they are. For what they are. For really what they is, you know. Some people are bad, but some people are good too. You know, we got to change this myth that every black person, every black man you see is a criminal. Man, look, I drive my Mercedes. I don't have no problem with it. Top down, enjoy myself. I was at Winn-Dixie one day. I'm a city. A white guy came to me and said, hey, what you doing with this white man called? I didn't know what to tell the guy. I didn't know what to tell him. I'm going to be real with you. But it's something to think about, though. You know what I'm saying? You will never tell another guy that. You know, there's just the little things in life that is big things to some people, man. It might be a little to you, but it's big things to some people. We got to change our hearts, man. Our hearts about living, humanity. It's about humanity. I preach economics. I'm sorry, I love economics. America is about economics, so whether we like it or not. You know, racism is very, very, very much here. But environmental racism is here. You know, we got to get these plants away from the communities. We just not heard about the railroad want to go to Oakville. You destroying the whole community. But everybody just want to sit back, well, it's not my neighborhood. That's things that we have to change. We got to be ready to deal with everybody. And I'm not saying everybody's going to win. But I can tell you, nobody will lose if everybody gets together and say, look, we're going to solve this problem instead of fighting over it and never come to a conclusion. You know, this guy here, I didn't vote for him. But you know what? We had a talk after the election. And I said, look, we got to change this. 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 We got to ever since then, he been straight. And I'm gonna admit this publicly. I have no problem with you. That's right. Hey, I have no problem. But I'm saying that to say this, man. We all got to learn how to do things, and sometimes you got to compromise. You got to compromise. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Henry, for those words.
Toshiba Williams, Avenue A, Belchase. Just to kind of bring to everyone's attention, or what already has been said, to articulate what people are saying. I mean, yes, racism is an issue, but as councilmen, exactly what are you going to do? We had Sheriff Turlidge step up and say a whole list of things, and that is real chancy. He may want to run for sheriff again, and he may lose votes. Of course, we know you're not responsible for individual citizens. What I'm saying is, anybody that works in the government and they're doing things, when people bring things and they go through racial experiences, don't ignore it. In the education system, when people go through things and it's a slap on the wrist. I remember being in high school, his experience in high school 2 years ago, something that happened at Belchase High School that could have, like he said, it could change your life. So at the time it may seem minimal, but we shouldn't be going through experiences in 2020 where kids' grades are being changed. And it still happens. It still happens, believe it or not. It's not just Belchase that happened in, but for whatever reason that it does happen, it is happening. That teacher shouldn't be coming back the next year. So we're really asking for accountability. I don't need to explain racism to you. You know exactly what it is. What we're asking for is accountability. We don't need, we don't need an office official calling people niggas on Facebook and they still have a job. We don't need, who was it, the secretary for the Plaquemines Parish government? We don't need her calling myself on Facebook a nigger and she... The education thing as far as in the school systems, and like a little bit, I haven't totally heard it because I know before I asked about it, the police brutality thing. But like I said, a couple of those things I experienced. We're just asking for accountability. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Is there any more comments? Cue in, please. Mr. Blank?
Could we please go to agenda item number 8, please?
What item is 8?
It's introductions.
Wait, we haven't voted on this item yet.
Thank you.
Is there any more comments? As you heard, everybody was pretty emotional about this resolution and about the things that's going on. I would like to thank Sheriff Turley, because I do believe that you believe in community policemen. Because most of the police officers in my community, we know, and most of them look like me. So, and with that, is any comments from the table? Audience, machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0. Mr. Blake, what you wanted to go to? We'll move to item number 8.
An elected
Hello.
official.
Hold on. All right, go ahead.
I'd like to introduce an ordinance requiring each Plaquemines Parish government employee and elected official to undergo annual diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice training. That's all.
Is there any more introductions?
Yes, sir. We have several. For Councilmember Black, an ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan retrofitting Building 800 project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution in endorsing and supporting Woodlands Conservancy's application to the FRTPL and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. For Councilmember Arbrough, a resolution granting conditional approval for a plan of subdivision of the NASJRB Credit Union Tracks 4 and 5 of original plots 18, 19, 30, and 31, Belle Chase Plantation, Belle Chase, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, into lots 4A and 5A, Belle Chase Plantation, Belle Chase, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on a map of subdivision by Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, Inc., registered land surveyor, dated October 15, 2019, without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines. An ordinance to amend the 2020 General Fund Operating Expenditure Budget, Finance and Accounting Department, amend the 2020 Public Health Fund Operating Expenditure Budget, Mosquito Control Department and Animal Control Department, and to amend the 2020 Road Maintenance Fund, Road Maintenance Public Right-of-Way Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. For Councilmember Gouy, an ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the replacement 8-inch waterline Main Street Avenue L project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution to adopt the Plaquemines Parish Government 2020 Hazard Mitigation Plan. For Councilmember LaFrance, an ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of James and Lisa Corset and Marvin and Mary Ann Descent, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the map of re-subdivision of lots 226, 227, and 228 into lots 226A and 228A, Myrtle Grove Marine Estates by Bryant Hammond and Associates, certified by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, dated November 11, 2019. The owners having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost to the Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. For Councilmember Kognovich, an ordinance declaring all parish-owned, non-movable property not currently being used as surplus property, authorizing and directing the parish president or his designee to sell all the non-movable property which is declared surplus and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the introductions. Oh, hold on, we have one more. This is for Councilmember Bartholomew. An ordinance authorizing and directing the parish president or his designee to have the Pointe-a-la-Hache ferry run Monday through Sunday from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That concludes the introductions.
Thank you, Ms. Barb. We'll move to item 2, executive session.
Receipt of attorney-client privilege communications and discussion thereof with regard to the legal options available to the Plaquemines Parish Council in regard to the Belle Chase Bridge project LRS 42:17A2 and 10. Councilmember LaFrance.
So offered. Need a second. Any questions from the table? Audience, machines is open on executive session. And the measure passes 8-0. Dr. Gouye. You want a verbal yes? Verbal yes. 9-0. We go into executive session at 8:08 p.m. We'll return from executive session at 8:30 p.m. There was no binding or final decision was made in executive session. Since we have some people in the audience, we'll move to item H.
An ordinance to amend, H is in Harry.
H.
An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvement plan, renovations government complex building 200 project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
We have a motion by Mr. Black, seconded by Mr. Albro. Mr. Black.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This has to do with Building 200, which by previous council resolution was designed and awarded to the clerk and the assessor. This is the building kind of right to the right of us as you look out the Y-shaped building. After speaking with the administration, to include Mr. Burris and Mr. Lapine, Mr. Epley, it seems to be after correct me if I'm wrong, Todd, but after the money is spent for the generator at the courthouse, there'll be approximately $3 million left in that bond. All South Consulting has given us an estimate of approximately $3 million to finish the building there. Speaking with the judges in an elected officials meeting, they both concur, I don't want to speak for them, but that the bond money can be used for that building, and it's a limited amount of money. I guess the plan is that we discussed with the administration is in order to free up money to use for anything, any purpose, to renovate that building using that money, which would allow the clerk and the assessor to move from the annex and the tomato shed. Then we can take that money, then we can sell that property potentially, and then use that money in the general fund anywhere. So if we wanted to use it for the ferry systems, or if we wanted to use it for operational costs, it would go into the general fund. So it gives us flexibility, plus it puts them into another building on the complex and consolidates, which was the plan, and it eliminates the $75,000 plus a year that we're spending on a warehouse for the clerk's records. So that's all I have on that. That's just an explanation of what it is.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, I think first of all, we have to go through the commission, the bond commission, to identify that money can be transferred for that particular project. Now, we're in the process of building the ramps in Point Lash, and I was counting that we can use some of that money since it has a direct impact on the courthouse itself. And to take that money in there and to put that towards the ramp as our portion of it, then whatever is left can be spent, if it can be spent anywhere else this council or anybody else decide. I can't see taking that money and putting it in the building up here. We put a lot of money in this area. We need the ramps need to be done. That could service the people throughout the whole parish, and whenever else they can find and get to add to these two buildings, go for it. But I'm not supporting that. And first of all, I do honestly believe that you have to get some support from the bond commissioner, Udell, and ask them if it can be transferred without any objections. And I will go on record to object the use of that money to bring it up this way for the buildings when we do need the ferry ramps need to be done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
There any more? Mr. Roussel?
Do y'all have legal opinions from the bond counsel?
Yes, we received a legal opinion with regard to the courthouse bond money that it could be used for the facility here, since it would be basically courthouse operations that would be taking place. So the courthouse bond was drafted in such a way that it was for courthouse operations, not necessarily a physical courthouse in Point LaHash only. And I have that email, and I'll forward it to the council members.
It would have been nice to have it before now, you know? But anyway, back to Mr. Bartholomew's concerns about the ferry ramps. I thought that was the game plan, was to use the money from from the courthouse to finish the infrastructure for the courthouse in that area, and what was left move up to this building or to wherever. Now, is that not the plan, or it's changed?
You win. The plan was to move the money up here. We had thought about plan of working on the ramp too. As you know, there is minimal service in the ferry down at Point LaHash, abbreviated schedule, as we say now. Mr. Bartholomew has put an ordinance for introduction to go back to full-time. And we will show you some of the savings that we've done at the abbreviated schedule. Now, do we want to do the ramp? That's a question I guess we could talk about.
Well, that's what I thought was the plan from the beginning. No one's told me that we will abandon the ferry ramp project. This is the situation for me. If you want to shut the ferry down, then say it. But we got a courthouse there that needs service from something. And, you know, there's back and forth. We had discussions about how we were going to do the ferry ramp, whether we're going to do it in an existing location and have temporary ramps, or we're going to try to get another location next to that so we could build brand new. None of that's been addressed.
This administration, Mr. Roussel, will move in a direction that we are running the abbreviated schedule, and there's a possibility we may not be running it at all.
That's what I want to hear.
Okay?
Is that what you're headed?
That's, well, I guess if you want to say abandoned, we're not looking in that direction.
What direction are you looking in? And that's
We're moving the money up here to finish the building, so we can move the assessor and the clerk into this building. Then on the property over there that's left, and I told you that, I concede, if you want to rent that for possible income, we can rent that. We have now the tomato shed, the old DA's building, the sheriff will be moving out shortly, and the clerk of court will be vacant.
These are all ifs, though. I'm trying to find out what we're going to do with the ferry ramp.
I just told you, we're in the mode that we're running at minimum schedule. There is an opportunity where we may eliminate the Point LaHash ferry.
Okay? So that's where we headed. Well, I can't vote for it if that's the game plan, because I think we need the ferry for the courthouse somehow. So, and you know, we should have known this several months ago when we talked about all of this, or looking at another site that we could possibly build the ramps without having to interfere with the existing ramps and all of that. If there was not going to be no consideration from that, about that, I would have liked to have known that prior to this. And all of this stuff about, you know, renovating the building, we understand it, we'd like to do that. And as far as the records and saving the records, we talked about that for years now, and not one person in the administration has ever made an effort to move those records, either the second floor of the Popage or to a building back here. It's all lip service and talk. So, you know, and I know Kim wants the building, and Ms. Belinda wants the building, and I understand and I sympathize with that. But, you know, I've been thinking that we've gone in one direction and we're going in another. And while we're on renovating these buildings, have you looked at the DA's building? Is that going to be the quality that we're going to renovate those buildings to?
We're going to renovate them to the quality that we have the money for.
So whatever it is, that's what we're going to do.
Yes, Mr. Russo.
So if it's gold-plated doors, we're going to do that. That what you're saying?
I'm saying we're going to renovate it to the money we have available, you know,
Exactly
so
right. So-
I don't, you know, he added some money to add some of these. You know, I know what you're trying to do, Mr. Russo, so
I'm trying to get a straight answer from you for once.
I'm giving you a straight answer,
You
okay?
said for whatever the money we got, we're going to spend. That's what I'm hearing. Okay, well, my position is already made clear, so whatever y'all do, you do. But I can't kill the ferry.
Mr. Bartholomew.
Yeah, this is a serious problem because you're telling the people on the lower East Bank, West Bank, Bootville, from Ironton South that use the ferry that they no longer will have opportunity to use the Pond Life Ferry because the administration is about to move it, close it, shut it down. Now, a couple of months ago, before we even talked about that, the administration was in support of building the ramps, repairing this ramp. In a meeting, public meeting, the administration stated that. They didn't say where the money was coming, but they stated they'd rather to consider building the ramps by the Pond Ferry. Said that. Now it's altogether a 90-degree turn. This is not good government, and we are not meeting the needs of the people that utilize the courthouse where we spend all this money. Now, and no disrespect with the clerk or the assessor, everybody had an opportunity to design the courthouse to accommodate their square footage. And they didn't do that by choice. By choice. The judges on the committee, so the people that live in
Thank you. Mr. Konovich?
Didn't we get a grant for the ramps?
We do have grant money available, but we have to put up the match for the grant. The match is 20%.
How much is the grant?
Well, if the ramps cost $8 million, we would have to put up $1.6 million in order to provide the match for the ramps. And I believe that we would all like to have the Point Ferry run 7 days a week, just like it has been. We've had a financial situation come up, and we've been scrutinized, the administration has, by the council, on what are you guys doing on changing the budget, on saving money. We have eliminated $12,000 a month in overtime in the ferry department by running that abbreviated schedule in Point LaHash. So the reason we are running an abbreviated schedule in Point LaHash is because we're saving $12,000 a month in overtime and also money in fuel. You guys are welcome to make suggestions. You're welcome to redirect the money. You know, we're trying to do our due diligence and save some money in this financial crisis.
Mr. Konovich?
But we're going to give $8 million back to the DOTD and not do the any work?
If we don't have the match money, we will.
I don't have money. You don't move it from here.
Correct.
You got all the money to,
That's a decision that is up to you guys.
and all the money's there for the generator for the courthouse?
The generator is going out for bid probably in the next 2 weeks. It's estimated to be under 800,000.
Mr. Russo?
Yeah, we just went through some ordinances in the last couple of meetings, and we were told that, we were moving money around for boat inspections, and we had money, grant money for the ramps left over, and this would not affect the ramps whatsoever. Now, we've come in a couple of weeks to almost abandoning the whole project. How did we turn around, or where were we misled from the beginning?
We haven't abandoned the project. The project is still available. In fact, it's in the design phase right now. It's under engineer and design. So we haven't abandoned the ramp portion of the project. We just have to hopefully be able to find some money for the match for the grant. Now, whether you guys decide it's coming out of the courthouse bond money or you guys decide it's coming out of somewhere else, that's up to you guys.
Well, where would you suggest we get it?
I don't have any suggestions. I mean, the financial situation in the parish right now is pretty bleak.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yeah, the operation of the Point Lahash Ferry was, the deckhand stayed on the levee from after 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock in the afternoon. It would work. It wouldn't work during that period of daytime. They were there. They were on the job, but there wasn't running. So we didn't save anything about cutting those people out because that's all they had to do. But work the other hours during the day, and that'd have been fine. But even though, because we save a few dollars not running the ferry from between 8 in the morning to 8 at 6 in the evening, that's the money we save in fuel, but not in personnel because the people were there. Captain was in the pilot house sitting on, I'm looking at him on the ferry, just sitting there. But that's all right. How can you say we're saving money and not even providing services? How do you justify that? It's hard for me to look at something like that, to see people sitting doing nothing and getting paid. And yet we concerned about finance status of our parish, but yet we paying people to do nothing.
That's not what was.
That's what I saw, Mr. Todd Epley. I saw those people sitting. I saw them. I watched them.
I'll follow up on that.
Now, you don't have to follow up. I'm telling you, I'm not going to lie to you about what I saw.
I believe you.
Mr. Black?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just the last thing I'm going to say on this, and then I'll just, it'll go which way it goes. Mr. Russo asked a question about where we can get the money. And there's nothing being hitting him, Mr. Russo. To me, it's simple math. It's simple good governance. Because what we're trying to do is not abandon the ferry project. Because, like Mr. Epley said, $1.6 million for the grant match. There's $3 million after the generator in the bond. The bond is specific to certain things. So if you use the 1.6 from the bond, then you still have 1.4 left over in the bond that's specific to use. That's not enough money to do building 200. So what I think is trying to be done is the smart business thing to do is to use the $3 million that's left from the bond, renovate the building, allow the clerk and the assessor to move into that particular building. I'd like to see the property at Main and Avenue G then be sold, which I guarantee is going to go on way more than 1.6 because We just bought property, right, Mr. Blink, at $875,000 right next door, and this is 3 times the size with buildings. So say if we get $3 million or so from that particular sale, then we can take the 1.6 out of that and match the bond. If it doesn't happen that fast, we still have some potential funds that could be used that we could then reimburse with the sale of some other property. So, you know, if we decide to take the 1.6 from the bond and match the grant, then we still have $1.4 million left that we really can't use. I'm just trying to move money around, kill a bunch of birds with one stone, and just do simple math on it. I mean, that's where I'm at. And that's really all I have on this. And look, you know, I've tried to, you know, to do some smart things that I think are smart things business-wise, and make everybody satisfied. I think the 1.6 will come, you know, whether it be through the sale of other real property to do the match for the ramps, you know, or we could use settlement funds that's coming to us in a temporary if we have to put the 1.6 up for the match immediately. I mean, there are options, but you know, that's just my mindset on it, and that's all I have. If it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, it's a dead issue to me. If it doesn't, I'm just tired of dealing with them.
Mr. Blank?
Please don't throw your hands up in resignation, Mr. Black. Think you have a good idea here. I'm wondering, could we wait? Could we show those properties with those offices currently in them and wait until the sale is secure? Or would you feel more comfortable using the Transocean settlement money to do this? It's a one-time funds. It'd be a one-time cost. It would save us the money. I agree with the idea in principle, but raiding the courthouse fund doesn't make me feel good. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Black.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. To respond to you, Mr. Blink, I don't consider it raiding the courthouse fund. You know, I consider it using that money wisely, and because we have to use it for a certain thing, right? I mean, we're in parameters to which we could use it for. So if we use it for they need a building, period. You know, and I've said this before, and I hate saying it again, but we voted 8-1 on the new courthouse. And I voted against it, and I said it when I voted against it. I voted against it because it was too small. I said, if you want to spend $35 million on it, then do it right. I said, but I can't vote for $25 million knowing it's going to be too small, knowing that we're going to be having issues with buildings 3, 4, 5 years down the road. So, you know, it's on tape. I said that. But now we're in a situation where we have to use that $3 million for certain things. And it costs $3 million for that building to be renovated. They'll move into that building. The sheriff is leaving the lockup. The DA is leaving in a month or so. That whole area is going to be prime real estate, in my opinion. I don't want to wait anymore. I've been waiting for 5.5 years to get things done around here, and it just seems, you know, I mean, I think you're learning that within a year and a half that things unfortunately move too slow. And it's up to us to make a move. I think that's just an intelligent move to do. And if we have to take the $1.6 million in an emergency to match the 1.6, I think we could do that, but I think then we could reimburse that money from the sale of the property later on. And that's, you know, that's the math behind it, and, you know, that's all for me. I'm not going to.
The air conditioner at the courthouse just goes belly up tomorrow.
Trying to get you.
Thank you. Todd, if the air conditioning unit at the courthouse goes completely belly up tomorrow, would there be any money anywhere to repair that? If there's a major, a catastrophic failure or something that happens there, is there even just mundane?
Still under warranty currently.
Got it. I'm just wondering how much of that courthouse fund should be kept in reserve for the actual courthouse building.
If you're asking, do we have money in the budget for major repairs? No, we don't. I mean, that was obvious last year when
Certainly.
we had to come for money for an air conditioning unit at the Buras Auditorium, and we had to repair the air conditioning unit at the Port Sulphur YMCA, and we had to repair the air conditioning unit at the Davan Community Center. I mean, we've had to come before the council every time to allocate funds for those major repairs.
Thank you.
Mr. Roussel.
Yeah, I realize all of the scenarios that are put out there and a lot of hopes and wishes, but it seems to me from the conversation we've had that the ferry in Point Lahash could possibly be closed, and that's where I got out of the conversation with the administration. So if that's where we're headed, you know, I wish I'd have known that about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, or however many months this administration has been in there, because I've been led to believe all along till the night that we were going to use that money from the bonds to match with the match with the grant to do the ramps. And obviously, I can now see why no effort has been made to evaluate where the ramp would be placed, next to the existing ramp, or, you know, it's a very clear picture now. Thank you.
Dr. Goy?
Can you give me a timeline on when the ferry money would be due? Ballpark? The year?
2 to 3 years.
2 to 3 years.
Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, I don't think this council will ever let that ferry shut down in Point Lahash, even if it's on a part-time basis. That is, again, I just don't see how we could do that. Not saying I have an answer, but in 2 to 3 years, when is the settlement coming in, the Halliburton? Like a year?
Huh?
A year? 6 months? A year?
Couple months.
Couple months, yeah. We have a number?
I'm sorry?
We have a number? Dollar number?
Exact numbers.
Ballpark? 1.6 million, more?
It'll be more than 1.6.
The point of order, we're talking about litigation that hasn't been really concluded yet, out in the open, which...
Oh, okay, all right.
You know what I mean?
They shut me down then.
No, I'm trying to shut you
No,
down.
no, no, not you. They should have shut me down.
No, well, I mean...
Okay.
And I thought we had
Erase that.
conversations among
Yeah,
ourselves...
erase it.
...as to what we were going to do, you know, if we got something. You know, like, make it through the end of the year. I mean, all of those talks seem to be going out the window now. And, I mean, you know, anyway...
So 2
Well-
to 3 years before the ferry would probably need that money.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Mr. Roussel?
What is that 2 or 3? I thought that the plans and all were being constructed, I mean, being drawn.
We, or this council passed an ordinance this year for the cost share for the design. So they told us we're on a 2-year plan for the designs with permitting and the location. So
what engineering firm you have on that? It'll take 2 years to design it?
it's being run through DOTD, sir.
And so have we made any effort to get TOTD? You know, again, back to what I've been under the assumption is that the money has been the holdback. You know, we could have got this ramp done a lot sooner had we had the money. Is that correct?
The design was being held back because we didn't have the appropriation for the design, the cost share.
And so we had money sitting there that we could have used out of the bond because the bonds were sold 10 years ago, or however many years ago. But we didn't put that package together to get the design done, so now we just started. So it makes me wonder, has there been an effort all along to do one ferry in the middle and shut down the Point Lahash? And that's what derailed the last conversation because the administration said they were going to run 2 ferries when the councilman asked that question. So this opens up a whole new dynamic of conversation about, you know, who's done what and who didn't do what for what reason. look, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm just looking at the conversation and the issue as a whole. And the bottom line is, I've been sitting up here for 5 years thinking that, we were moving in that direction, and, y'all vote your consciences, but I can't support this.
We have about 6, 7, we have in the quad back here, money for the quad, 6 million. For the baseball, 5 million, take it out of that. And then when you get the money back, you go ahead and put it back to build a baseball field. You ain't using it, and they claim you could use it in this area. When we move out of this area, it could be used in this area here, back here on Airbear Drive. The money could be used for any project back here. So if we so adamant about it, take it out to 5. Then when you get the money, you sell all your other stuff, you go ahead on and sell it and put it back in the quad, since we ain't moving the quad. But we need to have the ramps to help to build that ferry in Port LaHaye to accommodate the people in the lower Plaquemine Parish. 'Cause this is very sad. When we telling the people, we shutting the doggone ferry out in Port LaHaye. People in down the river, Bootville, on up, Port Sulphur. You can't go. You got to go all the way around the Bell Chase. Oh man, think about that. What impact that'll be? What impact that would be? Would you want to go from Bootville all the way down there and come back this way? No. I'll tell you honestly, we can sit here and improve that money to be utilized, not for the bridge, but utilized up this way, when we got money sitting there doing nothing with it anyway. Money already here. And just like he said, take whatever you need, leave the rest for the bridge, for the ramps, take the other one, do one, then sell the other building. Then take care of the other one later. Don't have to be done at the same time. But we so much concerned about being conservative on expenditures. We don't have any money in the budget, but we can take it and deny the rest of the people on the lower end and the east bank of a ferry. That's good government.
Mr. Blank?
I'd just like to point out that all these are really good arguments for having a more sustainable ferry system. You know, the $9 a car that we pay, the parish government pays to send the boats across, and the $1 that we charge needs to be reevaluated so we could afford these capital improvements. That's all.
Mr. Black?
I'll keep saying it's my last time. I'm going to get back on one more.
This is my last time, so you got the full afternoon. No. I just want to clarify 2 things. The first thing is about the quads. That is Sandy Recovery Initiative Act funds that have to be used for the project in which it was applied for. It was applied for in 2013, and they had specific projects that council and administration applied for that grant fund from, which is because of the Sandy, Hurricane Sandy. Those funds can't be used for anything else. I think we've tried to use them for other things, and we were told that they could not be used for other things outside of the awarded project. So that's not even an option, because if it was, we'd have used them for the water line a couple of years ago. The second thing is we're kind of throwing a red herring out there with shutting down the ferries. That's a whole separate topic about shutting down the ferries, because as Mr. Epley said and Mr. Dugas just said, is that the design phase is still going on for 2 more years. So just say we had the money to operate the ferries, right? Because we don't have the money to operate the ferries, but just say we had the money to operate the ferries. Well, we'd still be operating those ferries for another 2 years during the design phase. If we move this money the bond money to renovate the buildings, this building will be renovated before we even get to the part where we have to match the funds from the grant. So don't throw the red herring out there and saying, well, if we move this bond money, the ferry shut down tomorrow. That's not true. If we have the money to operate them, the ferries still operate for the next 2 years, if we want them to, under the design phase. So we have 2 years to go find $1.6 million. In 2 years, 3 years from now, we have to match the grant. So we can't throw this out there because it's not factual. If we had the money to operate the ferries, we still wouldn't be to the point of matching the bond for another 2 or 3 years, because it's still in design. I hope that clears it up, but, I mean, I don't know what else to say.
Mr. Konovich.
You're right about the Sandy Hook Act, because I met with All South, 6, 7 months ago. Mr. Roussel, Mr. Blinken, Mr. LaFrance was in the meeting with us. I don't know if I was there. But, because I asked them where the money came from, and they said the Sandy Hook Act. But the money came from down the road in the West Bank, from FEMA projects that they moved up here for the Sandy Act. So it was all money moved from down the road, different projects from down there in the East Bank. So I told him I wanted it to move back. He said the only person could move it, the parish president. So he can move that money any way he wants.
I have to refer to Mr. Dugas because
All South told us that.
Mr. Dugas?
To the best of my knowledge, the Sandy Act money the application had a set of projects listed on the application. I don't believe Building 200 or 201 was included in the Sandy Act application. I don't think 203 was in
Was there anything
council
down the road
chambers.
in it?
Huh?
Was there anything down the road in that application?
Nope, because they took all the
No,
money
we had
down
the lights
road
that were
from
done on the complex, we had the asphalt, we had the quads.
He won't answer.
It was all money from Katrina that we lost down the
No,
road.
Sandy Act is
And the
hurricane.
Sandy Act came along when New York got hit by the storm, and they said you could take the money and move it. So y'all put projects in the Sandy Act thing, and y'all moved the money from down the road in the East Bank to those projects.
Mr. Konovich, I can't take credit for choosing the projects on the application for Sandy Act. So I'm not real sure of which projects are in that application. So to say that y'all moved it is inaccurate because I was not a part of that.
Somebody in the government moved it, and it was all money from down the road that was already from Katrina funds. They didn't want to build the buildings in a hurricane zone and all. Then the Sandy Act came along, and I'm just telling you what All South told me, that they moved it up here to certain projects. And the baseball quad was one, the pavilion was one. And I told them, let's move the money back, and they said, only the president can move the money.
All mics are live.
Thank you, because I think that, go ahead.
I'll just follow up with, if you're basing PWs from Hurricane Katrina to be used, from moving from projects that were written up, like the old school board building on the East Bank, that project was scrapped. So the money that went towards that PW was moved to an alternate project. Which projects, I don't remember. You're talking 15 years ago, and there was a number of projects that were taken out of the PWs. The Sandy Act money has never been associated with Katrina. I'll call All South right now if you want at 10 o'clock in the evening to ask them to confirm it. But I believe that that application was solely for the Sandy Recovery
Initiative Act.
Impact or Initiative, one of them. It's getting late, I'm sorry.
I agree, but Mr. Roussel, do you remember?
What I do remember is that we're talking about the ferry ramps, and we're way in left field here with the quads and everything else. But yeah, they told you the only person that could move money around was the president. Now, that's been the FEMA line for a long time. Now what funds that he can move, I don't know. But this is a vote whether or not you want to take the money out of the ferry project and put it in a building up here. I notice people in the south end of the parish have looked at a lot of money that has moved from the south end to this facility here. In fact, $2.5 million of cash went to this facility from the courthouse building when they very first started this project. So they done pumped in a lot of money in this facility. And that's what cost the councilman over there his job, believe it or not. When he moved the money from the courthouse over there, he was cooked. And so, I mean, I don't want to get into all of this discussion about moving money 10, 15 years ago. The question to me right now is, do you want to take the money out of this fund and potentially shut the ferry down? That's where we're headed. I heard it from the administration, and that's enough.
Can I respond?
Yes.
Okay. And we're getting a little bit off the topic because it's about, but I'm going to make a statement. I did say possibly shut the ferry down and say, but we're running at an abbreviated schedule right now, and we're saving money. Now, like I said, there's an ordinance on the table, and Mr. Epley will have the figures next week of what we're going to pay when we run it full-time, to show you the difference of what we saved from running it at...
But that's not even the issue right now, Mr.
Yeah, well, am I speaking?
Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to show you the difference. And my goal is not to shut the Point Last Ferry down, but this is about economics, okay? So if you ask me to clean up a deficit department that is $3.5 million in the deficit, then I'm going to have to make some tough decisions. I don't want to make those tough decisions. I want you guys to make a decision and help me out and pass something that creates maybe higher tolls or gives me more money to operate ferries. That's your job. My job is the money you give me that I got to budget in. So I don't want to shut it. I'm telling you possibly it could. That's why we're running at an abbreviated schedule.
Mr. Bartholomew.
Vote no. Get it over with. Save the Lower East Bank, the West Bank, and I have everybody going down the river. And everybody live on the east side of the Lower East Side. You don't want to care about those people? Good, yes. This is really pathetic. This really is pathetic.
We have a courthouse on the East Bank in Point Lash.
I've never seen this in my
I
life.
can't imagine the people from Boothville, Paris, Port Sulphur, Lake Hermitage, Myrtle Grove, Ironton, all the way up to Judgment Bend, going up to catch the ferry, then come all the way down to Point Lash, then got to go all the way back to Belchase, then come all the way back down. You say that's a possibility. I understand that. But understand that me being a representative of the people from the southern end, I can't take that gamble. I can't take that gamble. Mr. Bartholomew.
Yes. No, I don't have anything else to say.
Any more Mr. Albro?
Back to Councilman Black's point, this is not what we're voting on. We're not voting on an ordinance to shut down the ferries. It's the funds right now. Even if we vote to use this money for the ramps and this construction happens in 2 years, we're talking about the time from now to a year from now where we're out of money and possibly have to shut down the ferry. It has nothing to do with this vote.
If we are participating having money within 2 months, then defer this item to 2 months. Any more comments from the table? Audience?
Yes, look, we spent $25 million on this courthouse. It is in Fort Lash. It is what it is. The people say it have to be there, it's there. You have to keep the infrastructure there also. The bond money that was left over should go for the infrastructure of the courthouse. The ferry ramp is part of the infrastructure. I know they need buildings redid up here, but this is something for all the people down there. That's the courthouse. We don't spend all this money on this brand-new building. I'm with the assessor and I'm with the clerk, but they're already in the building. But you need that ramp, man. You need that ramp for the people, for all the people, just not some. It's for all the people. You know, it might be, you might say it could be a good business decision, but is it a real decision for the people? For the people. And the money is there. The money should be spent for the infrastructure of that courthouse. You know, we all paying those bonds. We all paying those taxes for those bonds. Okay? So the people down the road should have some kind of access to the courthouse too. We gotta change this philosophy sometime, man. Like I just said earlier, you gotta look deep and do what's fair. What's fair? What's fair? You're representing all the people, all the people.
Thank you, Mr. Henry.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Kendra Arneson from Buras. You know, sitting here listening to this, I had no idea. And I think most of the people on the southern end don't have any idea that there's a possibility, even that it's mentioned in this room, that there's a possibility that our ferry can shut down. That's unacceptable. I'm sorry, but it's completely unacceptable for any administration or our council to shut our ferry down. That is critical infrastructure. We have people down the road that may not be able to afford to travel all the way to Belle Chase in order to go over and access that resource that we have on the East Bank called our courthouse. So we got to get it together, guys. We really do. It seems like no matter where we look, and I know we're in trouble in the parish. I'm a logical person. I get it. I know that there's no money to be padding all of these different departments. I've been trying to work with Mr. John and them to try to get the harbor and shipyard situation straightened out. And sitting here listening to this, I feel like I'm all in full panic mode. We have to have our ferry in Point LaHatch. We can't keep moving money from critical infrastructure that serves all of the parish for something up here that may be able to wait a little bit longer. We got to make sure that ferry stays open and running. Now, I don't see anything in this ordinance written up here about the ferry. But sitting here listening to it, that's where the conversation leads. So my question for you is, if we move this money, does it make the possibility of our ferry shutting down even more of a reality? Because that's unacceptable. Thank you for your time.
Can I ask a question, Mr. France?
Yes, the mic is open, Mr. Black.
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Kendra, thank you. And I'm going to ask you this question because, listen, I got a lot of respect for you. I watch at a bunch of the meetings, and you do your homework, you do your due diligence before you get up here and speak on a topic. So you just mentioned you don't see anything about the ferry here. Do you realize that this has nothing to do, this ordinance has absolutely nothing, no matter what red herrings get released and thrown out in the wild for people to look at, this ordinance has nothing to do with the operations of the Belle Chase ferry or the Point LaHatch ferry. Zero. It has nothing to do with that. Mr. Dugas and Mr. Epley just said that we're going to still be in the design phase of the Point LaHatch ferry ramps, which we voted for, we all voted for another 2 years. And that $1.6 million match won't be due for another 2 to 3 years. So this has nothing to do with the operations of the ferry. If we have the money, or we can find the money, or we can raise the rates, or whatever we want to do, the ferry can still run for another 2.5 years or 2 years or whatever it is. And when it comes time to match the funds, hopefully this property will have been sold. We could earmark it for the ferry ramp match project, which I think that we could do it. We could put an ordinance to have it surplus and sell it. And in that ordinance, I have no problem dedicating in the ordinance to say the $1.6 million from the proceeds of the sale of this property is dedicated for the match for the ferry grant, for the ramps. I have no problem with that. But we're not going to get to that for another 2 years. So this has nothing to do with the operations of the ferries. Nothing. Zero. No matter what everybody wants to say to make you believe that, it doesn't. I mean, it just simply doesn't. If we had the money to operate the ferries, we still wouldn't have to put up the 1.6 for another 2 to 3 years. I mean, I can't understand why we're not getting that. You know, I mean, unless I'm missing something. But we are going to have an issue with the ferry. We're going to have to, as Kirk just said, we are going to have to sit at the table as a council and either, you know, discuss Mr. Blink's proposal that he did a few months ago about rate increases or making it more efficient. You know, he did a lot of good work on efficiencies on the ferry system. Or go with Mr. Roussel's ordinance to move the ferry under the port in its entirety, which I'm going to support if all assets, you know, in personnel goes to the port. But that's another discussion. That doesn't have nothing to do with this. And I'm tired of belaboring it. And, you know, I hope you get that and can see that and not be, you know.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Well,
Thank you. Mr. Black, I appreciate your comments in the beginning of that statement. Thank you. So my question now is, what happens if we don't sell the buildings in 1.5 to 2 years? Does that make the potential of this ordinance impacting the operation of the ferries more impactful?
I don't think so, because I still think
if we don't sell the property.
If we don't sell the property, I think the property will sell. And that's somewhat of a gamble. I get that. That's somewhat of a gamble. However, we are in the midst of some settlements, and I'm generalizing that. I'm not getting specific about who or what the settlements are or how much. But I think that is a possibility. And maybe in 2 or 3 years when this money's due, there will be another source of revenue, you know, that we can get the 1.6 from. But right now, to hold up $3 million for 1.6 that's not due for another 2 or 3 years, to me is, you know, is not responsible. Because we're still going to have the property. We have to move them somewhere. We have to put the records somewhere that costs us $75,000 a year. You know, so I mean that's just where I'm at. Yeah. To answer your question in short, do I guarantee that it's going to be sold? No. I can guarantee that the Popage building can be sold to the port for almost that amount of money, because we're the sole governing body of the port. So if we told them, as the Port Commission, we're going to get an appraisal, you're going to buy it. Hey, same thing for Avenue G in Main Street. How about sell that to the port? How about do 2 appraisals, take the median of the appraisals, and us as a council declare it a surplus, and then us as a Port Commission authorize the port to buy that property. Hey, you know what? It's right on the river. It's right next door to the ferry that hopefully the port will take over at some point. Maybe that's an idea. And that's pretty immediate. So, you know, but that's kind of thinking out the box a little bit, and I know that's tough around here sometimes.
And it is. And with all due respect, Councilman Black, you know, pretty immediate isn't good enough for us. And with all due respect, please don't take that personal. But we need, you know, I'm not a gambling woman. I'm not a rich woman. Once about maybe a year, maybe every 2 years, my husband and I will go and we'll spend $100 gambling. We know we're going to walk in and lose it, so that's all we take into the casino, and then we don't go back for a couple years. We cannot gamble with a possibility of that ferry shutting down. So if outside of that, you guys know what's going on. I don't. I'm just saying, we can't gamble with that possibility.
It's not a gamble on that possibility. There's no correlation.
Mr. Bartholomew?
I thought I was next. Go ahead. But I just want to address the fact that you can't get confused about the operations and the infrastructure capital improvements. True, this money is not for operations whatsoever. But this money has been talked about and earmarked for years now, under his administration for the last 1.5 years, under the Cormier administration, that this would be used for the ferry ramp infrastructure. Now, it is true, it has nothing to do with the operations, but you think that operation can operate without a ramp? Now, the other problem that I have here is that we want to talk about, you know, decisions and all. You know, Mr. Lapine was on a council that borrowed that $90 million and put us in this debt that we pay $8.5 million on. So if we wouldn't have done that, we wouldn't have had the money to build the courthouse down there or build levees, and we'd be in a whole new world. But we're not. We are here today, And we have set a path that I was under the impression that we were using that money, earmarking that money for the infrastructure. Now we're talking about possibly shutting the ferry down. Now, you know, I don't know what the urgency is, and I don't know who's standing in line to buy all of this property that we have, but I don't see them coming knocking down the door. I can't even get them to put up a sign to say we got a Popich building the second floor for rent. So as far as being genuinely open with all of these scenarios, it's not there. I passed a resolution several years ago to market this property for revenue. I don't see a sign anywhere out there. I passed a resolution a year and a half or so to maybe 2 years under this administration to ask them to lease the second floor of the Popich. I don't see a sign there. So what I'm seeing, though, is that there is an agenda over here, and that agenda is moving behind the scenes. And every now and then it pokes its heads out right here. And tonight it poked it all the way.
Thank you, Councilman Russell. Y'all, look, we really need our ferry. We need our ferry landing. We need our ferry ramps. If some other project can be kicked the can down the road on that project, but we can't kick the can down the road on critical infrastructure. And that's really all I have to say. I appreciate the enlightenment, Councilman Black, Councilman Russell, Chairman, thank you for humoring me. And thank you all for all of your passion. You know, I know y'all have a tough job this year on your plate. I've been watching, and a lot of people are paying attention, and I thank you all for your service. But we cannot mess around with our critical infrastructure.
I agree. We can't gamble with the future, especially when we set a road path. We all sit around this council members, and we have these discussions, and I thought we were all on the same pages. You know, but to gamble in the future, that's why we're in the hole we're in right now. When we had $140 barrel oil, they blew it. They saved none for a rainy day, and that's where we're at. Now we're digging holes deeper and deeper, and I don't see it.
Thank you.
Mr. Black?
I'm not, I'm sorry, I don't know why.
Mr. Blank?
Yeah, I largely agree with, you know, Bo's, you know, plan to move some things around. I mean, if you would want to table this for today, and then, you know, we can get the port to do a couple appraisals on the property over there, or we do an appraisal and they do an appraisal, and transfer the whole thing. I mean, I would, you know, it's not a bad idea.
Look,
it's a great idea.
If the port had the money to take over the ferries and we knew that they could handle the bill, we would have done it. We have been waiting on, and this is why it really annoys me to sit here and have to say this over. I thought all of us were on the same page and understood that if the revenue was at the port, we would move the ferries to them.
Yes.
Well, then, it's not there yet, and the execution of the lease is not there yet, so that's why we haven't done it. So if you go looking for money in the port, I want to go with you.
Any more comments from the table? Audience?
Hi, Kim Turlidge Vaughn, Clerk of Court, 106 Pye Street. I wasn't prepared to speak this evening, but I just wanted to address some of the comments. Mr. Bartholomew, I do apologize that I was not involved in the preparation or the planning for the courthouse.
I did not, excuse me, I did not say you.
I know you didn't,
Like I didn't
but I
say
just
Clerk
wanted to
Mr.
explain that
Lapine.
that came from my predecessor.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, but all that should have been taking place for you and everybody that comes behind that person to make sure that that square footage was there for you.
I understand, but the concern of my predecessor was the safety of the records, the history of the parish being put in that area. That is what I was told. Right after taking office, I was approached by President Cormier, the Jr., who sent me a letter and said, I need to find a place for my records. And then once he passed, Mr. Ed Terrio had a meeting with me to tell me I needed to find a place for my records. Kirk was part of that to help us search on this facility for a place for our records. They're ready to put us out because they did not want to pay the fee to store the records. So what was I to do? I mean, all I can do is listen to what the council is. You house us. You provide me with my place to operate. So at that time, we looked for a place to have on this facility for those records. The cost of moving it, can't even tell you what that would have cost. So over the years since I've been in office, this has come up numerous times about having to do away with that expense of the rental for that property to have those records. The courthouse does not have the room for me to house the records. I'm at that courthouse, not myself personally, but I do go there, but my office is open every day from 8:30 to 4:30. We're there to service all of the parish, Mr. Henry, from the lower end to the top end. I'm from Port Sulphur. I'm a down-the-road girl. It's very important to me that we service the entire parish. I never thought that the ferry was in question to be able to provide a new facility for us, for Belinda and I. I had no idea.
It is.
Well, I mean, I'm seeing that now, but I mean, I agree with Kendra. It hasn't stated that way in the ordinance, so I was not aware of that, and I certainly don't want to be the one responsible for that, and I don't feel that we would be, but I'm just here to say that I know that Bo has good intentions as far as his foresight of selling the property, because there's means there, I'm sure, to help with the shortage. But I just wanted to come on record to say that I did not have any planning on what took place prior to my administration, and I just wanted to be here to offer my help in any way that I can.
Do you think that this has anything to do with the ferry?
I had no idea.
No. Do you, I mean, you said, do you agree?
Agree what? That the ordinance didn't state that?
I'm asking her opinion.
I know. Her opinion said no. I can tell you what she
I
was
didn't hear
saying.
what she said.
Well, I did say that I had no idea that the ferry would have any impact on this ordinance. I mean, I understand what everyone is saying now. I do. I understand what Benny's saying. I understand what everyone's saying. But that, I came here in support, Belinda and I came in support, that yes, we would be willing to move into this location. We would welcome moving into this location so that our two offices could be together and close to the DA's office.
Well, let me tell you something. First of all, this should have been discussed with this council if we had any objections about moving the money.
It was.
No, it was not.
How long ago did
Excuse
I
me,
send an
Mr.
email?
Black.
To all the
I'm talking. I'm talking.
Well,
I am talking.
Then tell the truth.
I am telling the truth. He didn't talk to me about that. The administration did not have any reservation on taking that money out of the courthouse fund to bring up here to do these two buildings. The legislation was introduced by Councilman Black. Now, your building, they got the Porpoise building, you can store anything you want over there. They got a second floor, you can put anything in there. We own it. So you put all your records over there, you can have the second floor. That's available now. So you don't have to look. There is a place for your records.
I really wasn't looking to begin with,
wait.
but I mean,
Okay, go ahead.
it was implied to me that I needed to find a place
Well,
so
I'm
that you
just-
cost eliminate that expense.
Right, I'm just trying to tell you that it's a parish building, and you have that availability to do that, to eliminate the cost all the while. Now, my whole concern is if that wouldn't have came up, that money would still be in budget, not budget, but in posture to rebuild the ramps, recreate new ramps with that money from the courthouse fund. That was always talked about that. Then all of a sudden we doing this now. So if we can wait for 2 years, or this coming or that coming, well, I think maybe you might be able to wait the 2 years when all that comes to place, you can take it off.
My sense of urgency was on your on the request of not having to pay that expense. That's my sense of urgency.
Okay, well, the
And to
Porpoise
say
building
that I
is ready
could
for
go to
that.
the
They
Popich
eliminate that.
building, I just want to express that it is quite difficult just being in another location. It's like going to pull something out of your file cabinet and it's not there, it's 5 miles away. I mean, it needs to be, the records need to be with the court. I mean, need to be with the clerk's office. And the separation of where it is now is very inconvenient. I send my interns, I send people there 2 and 3 times daily to research records on the public's request. So, I mean, it's multiple things that have brought us to this, and I understand that it is a difficult decision, and I don't have any problem with waiting. I just was under the understanding that this was on reserve for us.
Ordinance is withdrawn, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
You're
I don't
welcome.
have a problem waiting. We'll wait 2.5 years, 3 years. Withdrawn.
Should have voted for it. You should have adamant about it.
I'm not adamant about it.
Yes, you are.
What happened to deferring it?
It's gone. I'm done with it.
He's upset.
Because of me?
Yeah.
We'll move to item 4, status report by the parish president.
I have none.
There's an item of discussion under the status of the parish president. Update on hurricane preparations and pump station readiness from Councilmember Roussel.
Mr. Roussel.
Yes, I got the report that y'all had put out on the pump stations, and I know that during the storm, we were making comments that all the pump stations were up and running, and I saw that report kind of differs from the public comment that was made. But specifically, I've been asking for the pump station on the Medal of Honor Park to have the outfall discharge pipe put on there for the last 4 years. I was told when Mr. Simpson was here, he needed $50,000. I put it in the budget, it never got done. Last year, one of the new drainage superintendents told me he was going to get it done. It's still not done. Now, if Rose Street, where your mother lives, and XI Street floods because that pump is not on, you're going to have to explain it to them.
Well, this is the first time I've heard about what you're asking for. You never asked me. That's the problem.
Ain't no problem.
You never ask the president. You never call the president. You go around the president. That's how you're good about it, okay? So contact me, tell me exactly what you want to do, and we'll get the project done.
Mr. Lapine, I have brought this to this meeting.
You have not said one word to me. One word, Mr. Russo.
So you haven't been listening to the comments that I make when I'm up here?
A lot of times, no.
Well, then you would have missed the comment, Mr. Lapine. I brought it to the attention of this council and asked for it several times, so I can't help it if you don't listen. So I'm asking now, Mr. Lapine, please put the discharge pipe on the pump. I hope you heard it today.
No, make a request to my office.
No, I'm not. I'm making it right now, Mr. Lapine. If you want to be hard-headed like Cormier, go ahead.
Next item, please.
I want to say,
Ms. Newberry.
since we're on that subject of flood control and pumps, do y'all have any plans on repairing the malfunction at Ollie?
We're not going to speak on that. It's not on the agenda.
Well, isn't the pumping stations under hurricane, I would think that this is very important to the people. We are in a hurricane season, and I know the people in Jesup Bend area would love to hear your remark, Mr. Lapine. Is there any plan on
Do you have the report?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. The pump at Ollie is at 74%, as you can see. The one pump out of service is due, and the gearbox has issues. If you turn it over, you'll see what's happening and what is taking so long. So we are addressing the situation as fast as we can.
Are we having to do third party on this problem?
I can ask mine direct, Scott, we have
I
anything?
just want to update. I mean, more of a.
We have that,
Come to the mic, John.
Scott Roussel, Bell Chase.
All right.
Well, you're supposed to say your name, so. We got Conhagen rotating equipment out there, and they're gonna pull a pump, like it says, next week, and try to fix the bearing and the housing on it. I mean, it takes a little time. We had the storm last week, you know, so everybody was doing other duties. So we all working on it, and it, like I said, it should be out next week.
Okay. It's been out for a while, and I just didn't understand why we just wasn't prepared for June 1st. But, I mean, y'all working on it, and y'all gave me the answer. So.
Well, we have a bunch of issues on a lot of pumps, and we try to get them repaired as soon as possible. Some take a little longer than others, and we'll work on it.
All right, thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Scott? Hey, before you go, there's a couple of water hyacinth plugs in the drainage canal going south from the Ollie pumping station. If you give me the appropriate herbicide, I can get in there and have those handled. There's also a couple of trees that are blocking a good portion of the canal on that southern end. I wasn't able to inspect on the up the road side of that. Just couldn't get the boat in there. I could show you where they're at one day if you'd like to go take a ride on the levee.
Sure.
Thank you
I'll-
very,
I'll-
very much.
Okay.
We can get together early next week?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 4A,
Update by Charter Directors.
the Charter Director sent us their updates. Is there any questions for the directors? We'll move to the next item.
Bids and advertisements, 5A, resolution authorizing the acceptance of bids for furnishing oil, grease, lubes, etc. for a period of 1 year for use parish-wide and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Offer.
We have a motion by Mr. Konovich,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Blank. Any questions, comments from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0. Next
B.
item.
B, a resolution authorizing the acceptance of bids for furnishing Port Sulphur Library furniture and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
So offered.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Blank. Any questions or comments from the table? Mr. Roussel?
In light of the cash shortage, do we have funds to make these payments for $3 million worth of furniture, or however much it is?
Mr. Roussel, the funds for that furniture package is coming from a PW.
No, but we have to pay the cash up front and then get reimbursed. So I'm asking, do we have the cash to pay up front? How much is it?
$219,000
$219,000?
for the furniture.
Any more questions from the table? Audience?
Just for the public record, furniture, that includes computers, chairs, what all that includes, you know?
That will furnish the Port Sulphur Library.
But do it include computers or just chairs and sofas or what?
I didn't bring the whole list in with me.
Okay.
Any more comments?
Yes, will the furniture complete it, or they will still be, what would be left after the purchase of the furniture? Do you know that answer?
I did not bring the list in with me, but it's shelving, furnishing, chairs, the furnishing of the
So there's still
library.
going to be other purchases after this?
I'm thinking the computers will be, but the furnishing part of it will be completed with this.
Any more comments from the table? Audience? Machines are open. The measure passes 8.
7.
Mr. Roussel said yes. Seven with 2 abstentions.
One of those steps.
C, a resolution authorizing the purchasing agent to advertise for and dispose of surplus vehicles and equipment on an as-is basis through public auction conducted by Henderson Auctions and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
So offered.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Newberry. Any questions or comments from the table? Audience? Machines are open.
Too late, I'm gone.
And the measure passes 7 with 2 not voting.
There are no beer or liquor licenses, Mr. Chairman. Number 7, building permits, construction permits.
I would like to take item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and Globo.
1, Targa Resources, application number 2020-354 dated May 18, 2020, construct 2 protection levees at the Venice Gas System Complex. 1565 Tidewater Road, Venice, Councilmember Kognovich. Number 2, Hillcore Energy Company, application number 2020-366, dated May 21st, 2020, install 6-inch flow line, West Bay Area, Councilmember Kognovich. Number 3, Hellas Oil and Gas Company, LLC, application number 2020-383, dated May 29th, 2020, periodic maintenance jetting operation to clean out 2 existing suction caissons, Black Bay Field, Councilmember Bartholomew. Number 4, Hellas Oil and Gas Company, LLC, application number 2020-385, dated May 29, 2020, after-the-fact application for emergency repair on an 8-inch LP gas pipeline, southeast Black Bay Field, Councilmember Bartholomew. Number 5, Hellas Oil and Gas Company, LLC, application number 2020-386, dated May 29, 2020, after-the-fact application for emergency repair on a 4-inch gas pipeline, North Black Bay, Councilmember Bartholomew. Number 6, Hellas Oil and Gas Company, LLC, application number 2020-387, dated May 29, 2020, after-the-fact application for emergency repair on a 3-inch gas pipeline, West Black Bay Field, Councilmember Bartholomew. And number 7, Hellas Oil and Gas Company, LLC, application number 2020-388, dated May 29, 2020.
Offer, Mr. Chairman.
After-the-fact application for emergency repair on a 4-inch gas pipeline, West Black Bay Field, Councilmember Bartholomew.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Bartholomew. I'll second it. Any questions from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 7-4 to extension. We'll take item B, C, and D in global.
Lot Boys 2, Scott Lot Fireworks Stand Renewal, 9273 Highway 23, Belle Chase, Louisiana, Councilmember Gouy. C, Lot Boys 2, Scott Lot Fireworks Stand Renewal, 1454 Woodland Highway, Belle Chase, Louisiana, Councilmember Black. And D, P&M Fireworks, Paul Tozan Fireworks Stand Renewal, new location, 220 Harvey Boulevard, Belle Chase, Louisiana, Councilmember Roussel.
We have a motion by Mr. Roussel.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Bartholomew. Any questions or comments from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And it passes 9-0. We'll take item 9A1, going to be deferred. 9A2 deferred.
9A3 deferred.
9A3 deferred. We'll take item 4.
An ordinance to rescind, annul, and set aside ordinance number 403 adopted December 8, 1982. Rescind, annul, and set aside Section 6 and Section 7 of ordinance number 40 adopted April 9, 1964. Establish Article 9 to be titled Mosquito Control of Chapter 13 of the Parish Code of Ordinances. Establish a user fee for mosquito control in order to continue to abate, control, eradicate, and study mosquitoes and other arthropods of public health importance and all activities incidental thereto and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
I'd like to offer this for just discussion only. We've been talking amongst ourselves about a, second by Kognovich. Anyway, we've been talking amongst ourselves about pairing a user fee that would be roughly half of the proposed $7 and looking at a small millage for the other half that would be a more fair and equitable way to charge for mosquito control. We're still working that out amongst ourselves. Are there any questions from the board?
Any questions from the table? Audience? That's it. We'll move to the next item.
5, an ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of a portion of Tract 5-E Belle Chase Plantation, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as shown on the plat of survey of Cypress Park subdivision Phase 1B by Bryant Hammond Associates, certified by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, dated April 28, 2020, the owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines without cost of the Plaquemines Parish government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
We have a motion by Mr. Black, seconded by Mr. Overall. Mr. Black.
I have changes. Huh? No, I do. I don't have them.
We don't either.
No, we weren't, Mr. Black, we're not changing it. It's fine the way it's written.
You fine with that? This is the acceptance?
This is, right, this is the acceptance of 1B to remain private. 1A is referenced.
Okay, all right.
1A is referenced in it. We were okay with that because it shows.
Okay.
Mr. Burris, can you use the microphone, please?
I'll explain it. So basically, this ordinance, when we approved the 120 lots, we separated the build-out, this is for Cypress subdivision down on F. Edward Abear, into phases 1A and 1B. We approved 60 and 60, basically. This is the final, we did the final already for 1A, for the first 60. This is the final for 1B, but they had some issues with the streets, so the developer has come forward, his attorney, and met with the parish attorney, and decided to accept the streets himself. So basically, the streets will become private. I introduced an ordinance to amend the final on 1A to basically put the streets back in the owner's, the developer's hands. So what this ordinance does is it takes the liability of maintenance and everything else for the streets and gives it back to the developer. So this ordinance basically makes it not a public street, makes it a private street.
Mr. Roussel?
So this is part of the original 120, not the second 120.
This is the second half of the first 120. So we did 60 on 1A, then 60 on 1B. And with we did the final on 1A already, but the parish accepted the streets?
Yeah, I understood what you said. I
Yeah,
just wanted to make sure.
okay. Well,
We're
I'm,
moving to the second 120.
no, we're not doing that, no.
Okay,
We're doing the second 60.
all right. Because they all sold, huh?
I have no idea.
Attorney's in the audience, he may know. On the second 60? The first 60 sold?
Correct. Well, no, actually, there's 5 left. There's 5 left on the first right when you come in.
Wow. Okay.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Private streets, it could be.
Now, we won't assume any responsibility as a Plaquemine Parish government for the street. What about the lightings? All this other amenities that we normally take care of in the subdivision? Yeah, I mean, somebody.
So this will, you can ask your parish attorney. We worked on the ordinance
State your name
this week.
and your address.
Jacob Bro, Bell Chase. I'm an attorney here in town, and I'm also representing the developer for Cypress. He's developed the parks as well. What we're doing with an amendment in this ordinance, it makes it no different than the parks, which I assume y'all have had, or I know y'all have had no complaints for the 10 years that it's been there, as far as streets, lights. Y'all don't pay for any of that. It's all private. It's covered by the HOA and/or the developer.
For 10 years, you said?
No, forever.
So that's what this will do?
Correct, yes, sir.
You'll be responsible for everything in the park, in the subdivision?
Just like the parks, yes, sir.
Just like that, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, so
That wasn't
So if
part
the
of
street
it.
cracks and there's a panel needs to be replaced, it's on the HOA. Parks is like that, Pleasant Ridge is like that.
So just about everything, really?
Yeah. mhm.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
You just need to step back and collect
Yeah.
revenues. I think it's an easy decision.
Mr. Blank?
Yes, sir. Jacob.
Calling.
Mr. Broad. We got to go all the way back down, man. I'm getting tired.
Can somebody just get their attention right there?
Mr. Bro,
Hey,
please come to the mic.
question, man. I'm sorry. I know y'all got important business to handle.
It's not.
Anyway, well, I know Bell Chase is going to have, sometimes there's traffic snarls here, that kind of thing, and I was wondering, will the streets be connected? I mean, is there going to be any connection through the neighborhood? Say, it already connects to F. Edward Hebert. Will it
It's
eventually?
already presently existing. If you drive back there, the streets are already in.
Sure.
So there's a three-step process when you do a subdivision. So the way they enter and access it is what you see right now off of F. Edward Boulevard.
That's it? No more, nothing else planned?
No.
No connectivity between the parks or Main Street?
No, trust me, no. It's
Got
not
it.
going to
All
come to
right.
the parks.
All right. Thank you very much.
Any more questions from the table?
We're going to defer this. Evidently, this is the wrong ordinance. I thought.
Whoops.
I don't know.
That's the question I asked. I thought they had an amendment that was sent.
That's what I sent you on.
We'll move to item 6, please.
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of Camille and Michael Chuzinski, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, shown in the map of re-subdivision. A portion of plots 22 and 27 into lots 22A and 27A, Bell Chase, Section D, by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, dated September 17, 2015, amended April 14, 2020. The ordinance having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
We have a motion by Mr. Arbrough,
Second.
seconded by Dr. Gouy. Mr. Arbrough.
Yes, y'all have all the documents, including the maps. This offer is read.
Do we have any questions from the table? Any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0. Item 7, please.
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of lots A-6 and A-10, Sarah Plantation, Bell Chase, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, into lots A-6A and A-10A, Sarah Plantation, Bell Chase, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana. Is shown on the plans and plot of survey by Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, Inc., dated July 16, 2018, revised February 11, 2020, the owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost of Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
We have a motion by Mrs. Newberry, seconded by Mr. Roussel. Ms. Newberry.
Offer as read unless anybody has any questions.
Is there any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 8-0. Let the record show Mr. Black to move from his chair. We'll move to item 8.
An ordinance pursuant to Act 665 of the 2016 regular session of the Louisiana Legislature relative to communication districts to levy emergency telephone service charges, 911 service charges, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer for discussion.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Blake. Mr. Roussel?
Yes.
Key in, please.
You're on.
Okay.
I believe someone has been discussing this with the sheriff's office, and what this ordinance does, is raises the rates to make us break even, from what I'm understanding, and
Oh, we ain't paid the bill? You gonna take the funds from the levy, from the ferry?
anyway, back to what I was heading in, is it my understanding that the sheriff may be interested in assuming this responsibility and along with the funds, and if so, I was curious to know if there's been any discussion to see if there's going to be a unification of employees in that office to where the rate increase on the consumer would not be as much. If, for instance, right now we have Plaquemines Parish 911 operators and they have the sheriff's operators sitting next to each other. And if there's some kind of consolidation into the sheriff's office and somewhat reducing the cost of the operation, could we possibly not raise the rates as much, is what I'm really getting to.
Patrick Harvey, Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, also over the parish's 911 dispatchers. Back on May the 20th, myself, President Lapine, I believe Rennie was with us as well, met with Sheriff Turlich, Major Ligas, and Councilmember Black, and we discussed the possible merger of the both entities. Sheriff's thinking about it. Never got back to us since then. We've since had a storm and other things, so that's still on the table. But as you can see, we're running a $484,000 deficit. My dispatchers right now, I got 7 full-time, 2 part-time. It's probably around $300,000, $400,000 in salaries for them. Sheriff's Office, 12 full-time deputy dispatchers. I believe the sheriff said it was over $1 million for their 12 dispatchers. It's going to be a trying issue, I guess you could say, to try to merge the two because it's 2 separate entities. Ours is under civil service protection. It's a lot of work to get done. You probably have to form a communication district, have an executive director, so forth, to finally combine everything. Right now, we're looking for ways to raise revenue in that department. A few years ago, the state increased the wireless fees from, I think it was 75 cents per month to $1.25. We then adopted that same thing up to $1.25 per month per cell phone. And that is, how it is right now. Landline fees is 55 cents, and business line fees is $1.43, up to 5 lines per business. Those fees were adopted back in 1992. There has not been any change since then, and price of everything has gone up over 28 years. So we're asking, currently we're one of the lowest fees in the state for residents and businesses, and we're asking for, to increase those fees, from 55 cents to $1.45 for a landline fee. And there's not that many people here in the parish that really have landlines, but we're just trying to capture as much revenue as we possibly can. And then businesses, $1.43, going up based off of the tariff that the AT&T charges. I think it's off of 5% of the costs. Is we could go up to $6, and it's up to you all. And also, currently, like I stated, it's up to 5 lines per business, and we could put, we put language in there to not to exceed 10 lines per business, but that'll be all up to you all if you want to go with these rates. We're just trying to create a little bit extra revenue in our department. The sheriff has agreed. He's helping us out with some of the bills in the department. We're splitting them, but not the full 911, splitting the cost of full down the middle for 911 right now.
So the $480,000 deficit is low? Huh?
$484,000 deficit is what we currently have in 911.
No, but you say the sheriff is assuming some of our costs, so that means that if we added the cost that he was paying would be more?
Right now, with that deficit, he probably, with the Motorola bills, he splits in half with us, so starting last year, that's an extra $30,000 that goes towards our budget. But right now, just with the service fees for 911, it runs probably close to $200,000 in service fees. Our main expense is going to be in salaries, which is, $300-something thousand, $400,000. I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me right now to break down the cost of employees. That's what it was. Thank you, Councilman Black.
It's what?
460. So.
And salaries, benefits, and insurance and stuff.
Can I,
So does it look like it's insurmountable to merge the two? So this is needed for us to survive?
It's possible to merge the two. It's, like I said, it's not something you could do overnight. A lot of getting down to it and stuff, so.
So what are we raising it to?
From 55 cents to $1.45 for landlines per month. And currently in the,
143 to $6 for businesses.
per month.
Mr. Black?
I don't see that on here, so I was asking.
It's in the,
Key back in, please. Mr. Black?
So, yeah, as Director Harvey stated, I was at that meeting with the sheriff and Mr. Ligas, and this is news to me that there's issues now with the civil service thing because that wasn't discussed. What was discussed is a $460,000 shortfall when it comes to the parish operating the parish 911 centers. We had a discussion where we don't think we need that amount of personnel. The sheriff, I think, is willing. I don't want to speak on behalf of the sheriff, but at least from the discussions I have, and I see, Mr. Ligas is here to, tell me I'm wrong or not, but I think the sheriff's office is willing to take over the services. However, there's two issues with that. Number one is only if we pass this revenue to make us on par with everybody else in the region. And number two is that there's going to be a loss of some employees. Because in my opinion, and I think the sheriff's office's opinion, is that if they encumbered a couple employees from that staff, they would be able to manage the 911 for the parish and for the sheriff's office. I mean, he's not going to take 7 people if he doesn't need 7 people, if he only needs 2, right? We discussed maybe a possibility so we didn't have to lay off an entire department, if he took a couple people who were seasoned or whatever else and could transition easily, didn't mind transition out of civil service to at-will employee, and maybe we retained a couple employees, put them on a switchboard, or help them cross-train the sheriff's office deputies. But the discussions I had, and correct me if I'm wrong, Guy, but the only way the sheriff's office would take it is if we pass this to increase the fees, and we basically do a CEA in which those 911 fees will go to supplement the sheriff's office to run the program. And the second one is that, as we talked about with Mr. Lapine, I mean, we have to reduce the size of some departments because of the budget. And that's just the bottom line. So the only way I can support this is if we come to an agreement that, because I don't want to raise the fees and then we stuck with the same system we have, which obviously has issues. So don't just throw money at a problem and think it's going to fix it, because it ain't going to fix it.
Right, and I agree with that, and that's why I was trying to get to the bottom line of merging the departments and how much does it cost to really merge them. If we're going to have a reduction of employees, do we have to go to the full cap of the $6 for the business? And that's what my line of questioning was about, to see what the real number is.
What's proposed, it really puts us like at a level playing field with the rest of the region. We are so far below, yet our expenses incurred are so high. And when we did that analysis, it looks like it's because of the employees.
Right, but
we could combine, like Councilmember Black said, we could, if need be, we'd have to, like I said, lay off employees, just on.
Well, I was just trying to get to the point of breaking even. I like to just
I understand that.
live around here.
And it's probably never been, this department's probably never broken even over the.
I think years ago it used to. But,
Under Billy? Who?
yeah,
I'm
under
joking.
past administration.
Under Luke, I'm way back in '92.
Right, when we created it.
But the only way to break even, Mr. Roussel, is if you increase these fees and turn over the operation to the sheriff's office and reduce the manpower. I mean,
Right, that's what I'm asking, though. My question is, if we pass the fees right now and keep the department, we break even.
we break even with a bad system. So if,
I agree, but
yeah, I
Getting
mean, we
beyond
can throw
that.
money at a problem, and it's still a problem.
well, I guess what I'm really trying to get to the bottom of is that I don't want to see the system stay the same, for sure, because I've experienced it myself, handed off the phone to sheriff's department. But
I've asked,
We go to the max is what I'm saying?
I've asked in that meeting, and I hadn't seen it yet. I honestly haven't had, and it's probably some of my fault too, but I haven't had a lot of time to work on it. But I told the parish attorney, I want to see this done in a package. Do one ordinance that is a package deal where it raises the rates, it creates a CEA for the parish government and the sheriff's office to go enter into together, and it transfers the duties all in one package. So that way, because if we raise them now, those ordinances may just fall, right? And then we never actually do what's supposed to be done. But I wanted to see it like in a package deal. I don't think we have to do it right now. I think we need to work on a package and make it all in one package deal and then make that decision. Otherwise, I mean, you agree with that, Patrick?
Whatever y'all want to do.
I agree with your direction 100%. My only question was, and I know it's getting to be mundane, was does the maximum rate that we have in this ordinance need to be the rate to make it work, knowing that they're going to lay off some people or we're going to keep some people and all of that?
So you're going to need the extra revenue, period, you know. The rates haven't changed in 28 years, and the cost of equipment and everything has
No.
skyrocketed, and, you know, it's just,
I'm not saying that we're not going to raise the rate, but going from $1.43 or whatever to $6, you might be able to go to $4 or $5. If you're gonna-
that's $60 a month for a business.
Yeah, but I do think some of that money, Mr. Russo,
That's not even,
can
that's,
also be used when the transition from the Popage building to the new EOC and 911 center is done. So at least the parish would then have, I would say, some state-of-the-art equipment. So some of that funding can be utilized for those capital, projects.
Well, look, when these issues come that where we're raising fees and taxes, and we got a long train behind us coming, I'm trying to make sure that at least I ask the questions to make it the least impact, because when we go to the ballot and we loaded up the fees and we loaded this up, I don't want to have any ill will to where it all fails. Anyway, having said that.
Dr. Goy?
Real quick, Patrick.
yes, sir,
Deficit 440,
484,
484, and this will raise how much? 130, right?
100-something thousand dollars.
That's not a break even.
No,
No, we'll still be running a deficit after we pass this.
I've been asking that question. I thought that's what we just did.
No, not,
you had to combine services and probably, and hopefully it'll break even after that,
well, what, in light of what Benny's saying, we do want to know how we can do things to reduce the anticipated deficits in the next few years. This doesn't do that. We're still going to be operating at a deficit if this passes. And I want that to be clear, that the break even occurs if there's a merger. And then the parish should be
That's
off
correct.
the hook for whatever. Yeah, I'm done.
Okay? All right. All right. We'll defer this item till we get all the legislation prepared. We'll move to item B, please. 8B.
This item will be withdrawn at the request of Councilmember Black. Item C, at the request of the Engineering Department, is being withdrawn. D,
Excuse me,
resol-
before you read, will this fall off today,
I'm sorry?
before the next council meeting? D. Okay, well, I'll defer that because they will be at the next meeting with a presentation, the nonprofit group.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I just want to comment. I spoke to Mr. Lebrano. Members of the board intend to be here at the next meeting. Mr. Roussel asked me to draft an ordinance to rescind that, which I intended to work on. Cristobal kind of got in my way a little bit, so unfortunately I wasn't able to, but I will go ahead and prepare it. And if the council is not satisfied with the explanations by the board, y'all then can do, I'll have an introduction ready, and then you all can do whatever it is y'all are going to do.
thank you.
We'll move to item G.
Okay, items E and F are being deferred at the request of Director Taylor. G, an ordinance to amend the five-year capital improvements plan, borderline replacement Highway 39 project, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
We have a motion by Mr. Bartholomew.
What, on line 8, instead of 500, put 200,000, then I offer. $200. Amended to 200.
You offer with changes?
Yeah, yeah, 5 to 2.
We have a motion by Mr. Bartholomew to offer it with changes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Konovich. Mr. Bartholomew.
Offer as is.
Is there any questions from the table?
Yeah, where's it?
Coming out the budget. The budget. Revenue. It all comes out the budget. We're getting silly, huh?
Yeah, just for the administration, we have a question. Where's it coming from, the money, you know?
Coming from the water, wastewater maintenance fund.
You have the money?
Is there 200,000 in that fund right now? I believe there is, but I haven't verified it. We've had this discussion before. That fund is primarily used for repairs, for pumps for lift stations, for fire hydrants that get run over, those kind of things. I don't know what the balance is in that fund right now.
Mr. Dugas?
Chairman. Mr. John, I just want to ask a clarification. Is this money strictly for Highway 39, or is it for English Turn 3137 as well?
That's where you were, right. The beginning in the front where you're stopping at with the grant money we had and initial money we coming on down.
Okay, that's on English Turn, so it would be 3137.
Well, that she put on it. 3137, make that change. What I have on it? I just have Highway 39 South, funding project, maintenance water line.
Not where the house burned.
To replace the water line of Highway 39 North. You need to have the address? It's on the front highway, I'm sorry. Yeah. I got
On
you.
English Turn Road, we know
Yeah.
where it is.
All right, yeah, okay. Offer with those changes.
Mrs. Newberry?
What, the $200 that he wants to allocate, what will that get us? And
We have 100,000 right now in the budget to replace a section of cast iron line in English Turn. That's going to give us around 700 to 900 feet of water main. If you give us 200,000 more, just figure at least 2,000 feet.
Is this something that we're in dire need for? Is there holes that we need to repair? Because
This line is in deplorable condition. Folks are having problems with orange water. It's definitely a need.
Sound like Flint.
And then, but this is not going to solve the whole solution, is that correct? Is this going to,
No, ma'am, this is only a portion. The whole project's around, we estimated it a couple of years ago at 700,000.
and have we looked for grant money for, like CDBG money or something for infrastructure?
I'm not aware of any other funding other than what Mr. Bartholomew
Definitely infrastructure.
had received for grant funding for
Yeah,
this
we had-
area.
Not to interrupt, but we have requested that the administration do apply for grant monies with the CD. They said they don't have any. We have been requesting.
I can also say that we did look for grant funding a few years ago, probably 6, 7 years ago, for the entire project, but the allocation of that program was the whole pot would have had to been spent on this project, and it was a region-wide grant allocation.
I mean, is that what we're trying to do? Just take a little bit of money out our cash and flow and just repair a little bit out of line? I mean, do you have any other issues like this in the parish besides here?
Yes, in several locations on the East Bank that we've identified. This would be probably the worst location that we're trying to help Mr. John with in English Turn.
This is the area where we couldn't have enough water pressure to fight fire with.
So will this increase the water pressure?
No, because it got to be
It's
complete.
still a cast iron line, and we're putting in new C900 PVC pipes in lieu of the cast iron, but it's still going to have sections of cast iron in that area.
Mr. Blank?
Oh, you finished, Mr. Turnberry?
Yeah, I just thought we went to a class and I thought we were in a situation where we had a lot of these issues in the parish and not just on the East Bank. So I'm just trying to figure out, do we have, I mean, is this those asbestos lines that we're talking about? Or is this?
This is cast iron lines that are just corroded, that Infomark, when they get called out, when they get a break, they just go put a clamp on it. This line has probably 100 clamps on it, so it needs to be replaced.
And then some part, when you start clamping down on it, it start collapsing. Yeah.
There's some bad sections.
Mr. Blank?
Yeah, I don't think anybody here is able to answer it. Probably more of an Infomark question, but would this impact any planned maintenance? I know those folks, the last time it came up, they were talking about doing motor replacements, pump replacements for lift stations and things of that nature. Parish-wide.
This is a parish-wide budget. If you take the money and put it solely to this area, then obviously the other 8 districts won't use it, but you either pay for it at one time, 200,000, or you pay for it clamp by clamp.
Understood, thank you.
Mr. Roussel?
What about, wait. What about anybody else in the administration? Do y'all think it's a good idea? Go ahead and roll with it.
We've discussed it before, that maintenance fund is used for maintenance. When we were taking $500,000 out of that maintenance fund, it would have been detrimental to that fund. I don't believe it'll be detrimental taking $200,000 out of that fund, but it's, pursuant to the point you brought up earlier about major repairs, it's the same thing. If an air conditioner goes out and it's $80,000, we're in the same situation. If a pump goes out in a lift station and we don't have the money in the fund, we'll have to find the money somewhere in order to repair it.
Thank you very much, Todd.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes, normally we would file an application for CDBG grant funding for about $1 million a year. Are we still filing those applications?
I'm not sure, Mr. Russo. I don't know if there has been a CDBG allocation for water lines.
Well, I would,
Years ago there were, you're correct.
we used to do it
But-
every year for file the application. Let me move on. I know there was an introduction today for a water line on L Street. What kind of grant was that, or is that
That was a CWEF grant.
a what?
CWEF, CWEF, I don't know exactly what it stands for, but it's specifically for water lines. And we are going to apply for that grant again.
I know we put one in over there a few weeks ago. We passed something. How much was the grant that we applied, that was introduced today? The CWEF.
I think it's around 100,000 or a little
This is
over.
Avenue L?
Yes.
Yeah. The whole project over there is probably around 160, 180.
Well, not to knock Dr. Goui's district, I was just curious to know how we are selecting these grants and for what areas. I know Doc's doing a good job over there. But somebody's making these decisions, and we're sitting here taking out maintenance money. I mean, could these grants for CWEF or whatever it is be used on English Turn?
Yes, sir.
And we are using CWEF on the first section. The money that we have now, Mr. John graciously provided.
Well, I know I was discussing that last time when we were putting a water line for vacant development property. And I understand that it tied developments to it, but it was for the purpose of putting that loop in over there in the same neighborhood.
I call for the questions for everybody to finish, Mr. Chairman, so I can go.
Where you going?
Well, this discussion needs to be continued.
I'm going home. A long way, bro.
Any more comments? Questions from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 7 for, 1 against.
Thank you, Councilman and Councilwoman. I am going on my journey, so if I don't make it home, y'all to blame.
Thought I had that meeting at 1 o'clock. You wouldn't have to deal with this. I'm going to defer to next week's call.
Item I is going to be deferred. Item J is going to be deferred. We'll move to item K.
I'll check. Yes, sir.
A resolution approving and authorizing Thomas J. Surpass, Finance Manager, to execute a Louisiana compliance questionnaire to Calder, Slavin and Company, LLC, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
So offered.
Second. Second.
Seconded by Mr. Konovich. Is there any questions or comments from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure?
I voted yes, but I hit a double.
Okay. The measure passes 7 for, and 2 present not voting. No, 1 not voting. Hold on. The vote is 7-0. No, that's good. We're going to roll with that. We'll move to item L.
An ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a donation for the Homeland Security Emergency Preparedness Department and to amend the General Fund 2020 operating revenue and expenditure budgets, Homeland Security Emergency Preparedness Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
So offered.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Konovich. This is a donation from Phillips 66 in the amount of $40,000. Is there any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? Hearing none, the machines are open. And the measure passes to 7-0. Item M is withdrawn. We'll move to item N.
A resolution to authorize the parish president, Kirk Lapine, to establish a checking account at Regents Bank for the LA Safe Harbor Refuge Project and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
We have a motion by Mr. Blank,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Konovich. Mr. Blank. As read. Any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? Hearing none, the machines are open. And the measure passes 7-0. Item 10.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, we
Yes.
have a introduction request from Councilmember Black. May I read it into the record at this time?
Yes, please.
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of a portion of Tract 5-E, Belle Chase Plantation, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the plat of survey of Cypress Park subdivision, Phase 1B, by Bryant Hammett and Associates, certified by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, dated April blank 2020. The owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines without cost of Plaquemines Parish government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you. We'll move to item 10.
10B, District 9 update, Councilmember Kognovich.
Just like to thank the administration and all the employees for the hard work they did during the tropical storm. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Konovich, and thank you and Mr. Blink for your help. Really appreciate it.
That's all I got.
Item C.
District 5 update. Number 1, Suzie Bayou update.
I'll defer that, Mr. Helmers is not here. You want to get an update?
We just found out this week that the permit was authorized with the new spoil locations. So now it's on us to get with the consultant, the project engineer, to schedule a restart up, to figure out what the schedule is going to be. But the project is still under contract with, I believe, Coastal Dredge.
And the original questions were, why did we have to relocate the spoil disposal sites?
Property owners changed from the original permit.
And who were they?
The original permit was under the DeFelice's name, under his property.
But I mean,
When his property was sold, it went to the Brandt family. And then there was another passing, then the new owners allowed us to use that and the old, so the permit had to be revised.
But I'm asking, are they different locations for the spoil sites?
They're additional,
Additional, but in the
Yes.
same vicinity?
yes. So it's just, within the next 2 weeks, we hope to have a meeting scheduled with the Coastal Dredge to get them back on track.
Next.
Update on Bell Chase Water Plant Intake Project.
You might as well stay and give us these real quick.
Okay, I can tell you that the water intake is the pump station project that we are still waiting for the authorization from the Corps on that one. Apparently, some of the federal offices are not working full staff just yet, so some of our authorizations have been delayed.
It has nothing to do with funding.
The funding at this point, it's going to be tight.
So that's what I'm trying to get to. I was under the impression that the project was on hold because of funding.
The only funding that would be, to my knowledge, in question would be the cash flow for our share.
Other than that, though, there's enough funds to pay the engineer and the everything else?
It's going to be tight.
I
don't know. I can't answer you exactly.
Right, and just because we say it could be tight, I would not want us to advertise the position because we think it's tight. I would rather you advertise the position and it come in over bid and we reject the bids and then squeeze it down and rebid it, if that's what it takes. But to sit back and say, we don't have enough money before we even bid it, you know.
It all depends on the existing project, and how much money is left in that budget as well, the existing expansion project.
Well, we got the grant for the $4 million.
Understood, but there's a cost share associated with that. So we're hoping to advertise. Let's talk to the engineer. He's got the plans ready to advertise. Within 30 days, he'll have it ready to advertise if the Corps permit comes through timely.
Okay, so we're not going to hold it up because we think it might be short.
I can't answer that.
Who makes that decision?
It's going to be a financial question.
Well, my recommendation is that we advertise the project, and if bids come in over, then you come back and we reject the bids and go back to the drawing board or whatever we have to do for more money. But just because we got a thought in our mind that it might be short, I wouldn't want to see the project hold up, just like the ferry ramps haven't been bid or haven't moved to design for a year or so.
Point taken?
I just want to make sure you heard me.
I heard you, sir.
Some people don't hear me.
I hear you, Mr. Russo.
Thank you, Mr. Levine.
We'll move to item 3.
Still here.
Update on 2020 census collection. Mr. Keith Espedron.
As of yesterday morning, our response rate for the parish is 49.6%. We are continuing outreach activities. We've been giving outreach activities at the local food banks throughout the parish. Once self-response is over, the census will send out census takers, and that's going to start in August. Any questions I can answer?
No, when I saw the response that we were the lowest in the entire area, I thought it'd be a good idea to put it on here and try to get some interest in
Yeah.
it. And from the people that were here today, I would hope that they would get involved in this issue as well and try to get those census numbers up.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. We are one of the lowest in the region. We are below the state average. We do have a committee for the parish that I and Director Taylor are serving on, and we have been doing outreach activities. Just for point of reference, one of the southernmost census tracts in the parish is right now at 16% response. The East Bank census tract is at 32 response. So 32%. So we do need some additional outreach, and anybody who is listening now, please fill out your census. Encourage your neighbors to do so. We continue to put out social media blasts about once a week about the census. Councilman Newberry also serves on a committee. We've been doing a lot of activities. We had more planned, but obviously with COVID-19 and social distancing, we had to put some of those plans on hold, but we're still doing as much outreach as we possibly can.
So in August, you're going to hire some individuals to go?
Well, the census has already gone through the hiring process. They have individuals in queue that have already done background checks and whatnot, but that's when the people are going to start actively going out in August. That would have happened earlier, but again, COVID-19. So August is now as their current timeline to get people knocking on doors. But you can call the census. You can go to census.gov/respond. That's how you respond to your census. If you don't have a code, you can look up one there. You can call the number, give your information. It's a very simple and easy process, so we are encouraging people to do so.
Do we have it on our website? I haven't really.
We do have it on our website. We can get it highlighted some more on the website. That's an easy, I can get with our public information officer to get it on the homepage. That's not a problem, but we do have a census tab on our website, yes.
And I think we should maybe put some signs up on the north, the east, and the south.
Yeah, we can. We talked about that as a committee, and we could try to get some signs put out. Yeah, I agree.
Could we do a reverse 911 and
We could also do that. We could do a robocall. I'm sure the President Lapine would be inclined to do so. We can do that as many times as we need to. Thanks for the ideas, guys. We do appreciate it, and we will, we'll follow up with the website. We can do a 911 call. We'll put out additional social media blasts, and as the food banks are continuing, we do have some more flyers and promotional materials. We'll continue to pass those out to try to get the numbers up as high as possible. It's very important to our funding and everything that we're going to be getting from the federal government, so we do need to get those numbers up.
If we don't do 911 call, can we text people?
I would have to get with, we have, through the Everbridge system, we have the ability to send emails, text, or robocalls, so yeah. We have it, well, with everybody that signed up for emergency notification with the parish would get it through the Everbridge.
all three?
Say that again?
All three.
Right. I mean, we need to, it's imperative that we get the numbers up as high as possible. But the Census Bureau will do its due diligence. They will send out as many people as possible. They will knock on your door as much as they possibly have to, because it is constitutionally mandated that they get the census, obviously. So the self-response is not the only avenue. It's just, it's easier if we get the self-response rates up. And in fairness to everyone in the parish, we were really low a couple weeks ago, and we have made a substantial jump, but like I said, we're continuing to do outreach. And if you guys would just, when you do see those posts on our website and our Facebook, just share that and blast it out as much as possibly can. It would be of a great help to us. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
We'll move to item 4, please.
Update on Good News Drainage Project.
Yes, I've received several calls, photos, pictures. People are a little aggravated. The grass hadn't been cut on that project, and it really looks like it's been abandoned. And I read the update that it was sent out that it looks like GOSEP is approved, but FEMA hasn't yet.
That's correct.
So I guess the point of this discussion, we're waiting on FEMA, but can somebody get out there and clean up the area,
We've
cut the grass?
notified the contractor, Mr. Roussel. Last year, we did the same thing. When the grass got overgrown, we notified them.
And
it looked like they came back last year and cleaned up the area and tightened up the fences. But we called them. Hopefully, we can get them out there tomorrow or next week.
Do you have any idea when FEMA may be giving us a determination? And this determination we're looking for FEMA is for change order money?
Yes, sir.
700 or how much?
750.
750. Okay. My
Long
constituents
project.
have bugged me about this, and I have to,
Understood.
relay the information and represent them like Mr. Bartholomew would say.
Understood.
And number 5 has already been taken care of.
D, District 8 update, Councilmember Blink. E, District 3 update. District 1 update will be deferred.
Deferred.
District 7 update will be deferred. District 6 update, Councilmember Newberry, Jesuit Bend Drainage.
I'm not deferring. Mr. Dugas, I just want to thank you for sending me the information I had asked you about the Jesuit Bend project. And I don't think we've talked to Mr. Blink here. This is the Jesuit Bend project. I'm asking about our districts that run into each other.
Please, anytime you send information about that to Ms. Newberry, it affects both of us, and
Well,
really it's more.
I personally reached out, and we were going to talk about it tonight, so that was,
Thanks.
I'm sorry, anyway.
No, it's all right.
So can you kind of just give us a brief update, please?
You're talking about the project that includes the 2 trunk lines that run through the main subdivisions in Jesuit Bend. The preliminary drawings which I sent you, they look pretty complete already. So if you want to pass those on, if you want to put them on, if you have a Facebook or something you want to put something out there, or if you want to have a public meeting to bring people in and let them come and see how they're going to be impacted, because there will be a few that'll be inconvenienced with the projects. It shouldn't take us long to get to final design. Okay, so hopefully within, I'm going to say 60 days, we can get the final design.
So do you think when we get the final design, we can have like a little meeting with the constituents?
We need to do that before. If we got preliminaries, we need to try to schedule something in the next month in case there's some significant changes or concerns. But this project is funded by bond money, so there's no cash problem on it. So we should be able to advertise this project this year.
Great.
And Mr. Blink, you have any questions about that particular project?
There's just one, there's one resident in the area that is having some issues with, it looks like his driveway is starting to split, and it's probably a connecting tube. I emailed you about it.
Yeah, I responded with your address.
Sure, and I'll get that to you
Okay.
ASAP. I'm going to be out there tomorrow at 11. You think you make it?
Tomorrow, we have a meeting at the administration's office for 9, depending on how long that lasts.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Give me the address, and I can send one of my inspector or another person from my department to go just meet with you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ken.
It's on Regina Drive, is the street.
135.
Yep.
So, and one more question. If you can get with me, and you never did get with me about setting up a meeting about the culverts.
Culvert cleaning. Right, but we discussed it, that they're working on Woodland and Engineers
I
Road.
know we got
and,
time, but just don't forget me, please.
No, it's one of our priorities to get that done, so we understand.
Yeah, I'm getting outcry. We having big issues, and I know the river's been up, so you think in a couple of months the river will be down?
Let's hope. It's held up a lot of projects this year and last year.
It's definitely putting a kink in my district.
When they dredge the pass down there, maybe the river will be able to get out.
Let's hope so.
You finished, Mr. Newberry?
I'm done, thank you.
Thank you. Item 11,
Approval of the minutes from the May 28, 2020 meeting.
so offered, seconded by Mr. Roussel. Any questions, comments, table? Machines open.
We're moving this back to 1.
And the message passes 7-0.
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, seconded.
I'll support it.
Second.
Machines are open. And the measure passes 7-0. Adjournment at 10:44 p.m.